So this is basically the theory review outline of the state board exam, okay? So it's the new and updated one. This is the one that they are using currently and effective as of January 13th, 2021, okay? So it'll be 55% scientific concepts. And of course, y'all know we're gonna walk through all of the 55% scientific concepts, and then we're gonna go over into the 45% of skincare and services. So we're gonna go ahead and break this down. So we're gonna get started with microbiology. Microbiology. So y'all basically can find basic knowledge of microbiology on page 105 to 109 and 113 to 112 in your foundation small book. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead there and start talking about that. So let me pull up this PowerPoint for y'all. So if you have this physical NIC sheet, please keep a hold of it because I'm gonna be going through the PowerPoint mostly. And I guess we'll refer back to this when we need to, but I'm gonna just keep going and I'm gonna give y'all the pages. So please take a note, write them down, and take notes. Also, I have a picture that I'll send out to y'all with the exact pages and everything, okay?
Does somebody write the page numbers down?
I have it for you already, Ebony.
Okay.
Don't worry about it, okay?
Okay.
So if y'all missed something, I just want to kind of go through everything and do the review with the PowerPoint because it'll make a lot more sense so y'all can see what's going on. All right, so I had to show y'all this because this is the only thing that changed, but a lot of the information is still the same. A lot of the information is still the same, okay? So let's get into this PowerPoint. All right. All right, let me know if y'all can see this.
Yep.
All right, cool beans. So the first topic is, we already know, right, is microbiology, knowing bacteria, virus, funguses, parasites, all of those different things. And once again, I told you, y'all can find this in the foundations book on page 105. So we're gonna go there and we're gonna talk about this, right? We're gonna go there and we're gonna talk about this. So on page 105, microbiology is there, right? And we have contagious disease and communicable diseases, right? But in that, right, we got to go ahead and talk about bacteria. So bacteria are single cell microorganisms that have both plant and animal characteristics. Both plant and animal characteristics. So a microorganism is any organism of the microscopic or submicroscopic size. And some bacteria are harmful while others are harmless bacteria. So keeping that in mind, knowing that some are harmful and some are not harmful. So when we get into the types of bacteria, we'll go to page 109. 109, I mean, not 109, 106, 106, sorry, I apologize about that. 106, the types of bacteria is on page 106. We have non-pathogenic, and most bacteria are non-pathogenic. In other words, they are harmless organisms that may perform useful functions. They are safe to come in contact with since they do not cause disease or harm. Moving forward, we have pathogenic bacteria. That pathogenic are harmful microorganisms that can cause disease or infection in humans when they invade the body. So this is the reason why we're in the salon and spa. We're trying to make sure we use effective infection control procedures because we don't want none of that pathogenic bacteria to be spread, right? Moving forward, the way you can remember pathogenic and non-pathogenic, we'll know that non-pathogenic means not harmful, not harmful. Pathogenic means harmful, okay? Meaning it will cause disease or any of that nature. Moving forward, we have different types of bacterial infections. So of course we know that a lot of times we'll see infection in a form of inflammation, right? So inflammation is a condition in which the tissues of the body reacts to injury, irritation, or infection. Inflammation is characterized by redness, heat, pain, or swelling. So once again, we have different types of infections, right? Bacterial infection, you have a local infection. You have a local infection, right? I'm sorry, I'm go back to pus. So pus is a fluid containing white cells, bacteria, and dead cells, and is a byproduct of the infectious process. So we know that inflammation, once again, is a condition in which the body reacts to injury, irritation, or infection. But pus is a fluid containing white blood cells, bacteria, and dead cells, and is a byproduct of the infection process. So moving forward, we know that, guess what? We know that moving forward, a local infection is basically, you're able to locate it, right? You're able to locate it, such as a pimple or an abscess, and is confined to a particular part of the body and appears as a lesion containing pus. So once again, that local infection, you can locate it. It's like acne, different things of that nature. You can locate that type of infection. But a systematic infection is an infection where the pathogens have spread throughout the body rather than staying in one location. So that's kind of self-explanatory. You can locate a local infection, but a systematic infection has then continued and moved into the bloodstream or throughout the body. All right, so we have bacteria, which we have Staphylococcus. Staphylococcus is among the most common bacteria that affects the humans and are routinely found in our environment, including in our bodies, although most strains will not make us ill, okay? So Staphylococcus or staph is responsible for food poisoning and a wide range of disease, including toxic shock syndrome. Toxic shock syndrome. So we also have methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. I hope I said that right, y'all. But we also know this as MRSA, M-R-S-A. The initials for this particular bacteria is MRSA, okay? And this occurs most frequently among persons with weak immune systems or who had an ongoing medical procedure. So moving forward, we'll go into the next bacteria. Bacteria or microbacterium. Microbacterium is the name for a large family of bacteria that is often found in soil and water. Soil and water, okay? Soil and water. Microbacterium is found in soil and in water. We have viruses now. Viruses. A virus is a submicroscopic particle that infects and resides in the cells of biological organisms. A virus is capable of reproducing only through taking over the host cell's reproductive function. So viruses are so small that they can be only seen with the most sophisticated and powerful microscopes. The common cause, viruses cause common colds and other respiratory and gastrointestinal digestive tract infections. So once again, we have different types of viruses. Of course, we know coronavirus is one. It looks like coronavirus, that picture right there, but just a different color. However, moving forward, we got to know prevention. We cannot cure viruses, but we can prevent contracting them and spreading them through the use of vaccination, although there have been several controversies over vaccines. So we know that we can only take a vaccine to basically build up our immune system to fight the virus, but there is no cure for a virus, okay? You just overcome it by immunity, right? So,
Miss Angelica,
yes, love.
can you let Amber in?
Oh, I'm sorry. So moving forward, incubation. The incubation, many viruses can remain dormant for months to years following exposure, but most produce signs of illness within 10 to 14 days. So that's part of the reason of the 10 to 14-day quarantine. Moving forward, HPV, human papillomavirus, and herpes simplex is another type of virus. All right. So now, and also hepatitis and HIV is another virus. So we know those are found on page 110. All of this is found anywhere between page 105 to 110. 105 to 110. Moving forward, we have our fungi, right? Fungus, which is found on page 112. 112. Fungus, what is fungus? Let's talk about fungus, right? They are single cell organisms that grow in irregular masses that include mold, mildews, and yeast. And they can produce contagious disease such as ringworm. Mildew is another fungus that affects plants or grows in intimate objects, but does not cause human infections in the salina spot. So the most frequently known fungi or funguses are Tenea barbae, also known as barber's itch. Pay attention, y'all. Y'all really need to highlight this. A person with Tenea barbae have deep inflamed or non-inflamed patches on the skin or the face or on the neck and the nape. Tenea barbae is also, Tenea barbae is similar to Tenea capitis. So Tenea capitis is a fungal infection of the scalp characterized by red papules or spots at the opening of a hair follicle. So moving forward, we know ringworm. Ringworm is very, very contagious. It's a fungal infection of the skin that appears in a circular lesion and is another fungus that may contraindicate a beauty service. Moving forward, we have parasites. Parasites. Yes, we need to know about parasites. Parasites are organisms that grow and feed and shelter on or in another organism. And you can find this on page 113. 113. Parasites are organisms that grow and feed and shelter on or in another organism. So while contributing nothing to the survival of that organism, or you consider that a host, it has to have a host to survive, okay? And it doesn't allow that host organism to survive. So it takes everything from it. It draws from it. Head lice is one of them, is an example of parasites. Also, scabies is another contagious disease caused by the itch mite. All right. So moving forward, we have applying the knowledge of infection control procedures related to, and this is found on page 95, okay? You can find infection control on page 95. All right. So what is infection control? So infection control refers to the method used to eliminate or reduce transmission of infectious organisms from one individual to another, since transmission can occur when using contaminated implements. So infection control, we're trying to control any form of infection, okay? Moving forward, there are different levels of infection control. You have sanitation, disinfection, and sterilization. And you can find, let's go to page 101. So you can find cleaning on page 101. Cleaning is a mechanical process using soap and water or detergent in water to remove all visible dirt, debris, and any disease-causing germs from tools, implement, and equipment. The next level of infection control would be disinfecting, or the process of disinfection. This involves the use of a chemical to destroy most, but not necessarily all, harmful organisms on the environmental surfaces. So disinfection is, however, not as effective against bacterial spores. What is bacterial spores? Bacterial spores, which are bacteria capable of producing and protecting and coating that allows them to withstand very harsh environments and shed the coating when conditions become more favorable to them. Okay, so moving forward, we have disinfecting, right? Disinfecting products, they have to have bactericidal, which means they're capable of destroying bacteria, virucidal, which means they are capable of destroying viruses, and fungicidal, which they are capable of destroying mold and fungus. So, but barbicide is one of those disinfectants that covers all of those, including tuberculosicidal, which means it kills, destroying tuberculosicidal stuff. Okay, so moving forward, let's go into the methods of infection control. You can find this on page 115. 115. Okay, and I need to touch on sterilization as well. So I'm gonna touch on sterilization first. So sterilization, which is the process that destroys all microbial life, including the spores, and can be incorporated, but is rarely mandated. So we have to understand that cleaning is first, disinfecting is next, but sterilization is going to get all those spores that the disinfectant could not get, right? And most of the time, this is in the form of an autoclave machine, an autoclave machine. So those are the different methods, of, let's get into the methods. So the methods of infection control would be a heat, which is the autoclave, and the chemical agents, which is like disinfecting, meaning barbicide, rejuvenate, all those type of things, right? Those chemical agents. But moving forward, you also have the different levels of disinfecting, right? So disinfecting level 1 would be cleaning and disinfecting. Decontaminating level 2 would be cleaning and sterilization, right? Cleaning and sterilization. So we need to understand that those are the two different ways you can go ahead and prevent your implements from being contaminated or keeping them clean for the next client. So let's get into precautions, safety precautions, or safety procedures and guidelines as it relates to standard precautions. And you will find this on page 126, okay? You'll find this on page 126, standard precautions. So standard precautions are guidelines published by the CDC that requires the employer and employees to assume that any human blood and bodily fluids are potentially infectious, because it may not be possible to identify clients with infectious disease. So we need to treat everyone like they have some type of infection, point blank period. Some people are what we call asymptomatic, meaning they show no symptoms of signs of infection. So we have to be mindful of these standard precautions, okay? So once again, you have your biohazard container, which meaning that is for sharps. Anything that has come in contact with blood should go into this sharps container, right? Or this biohazard container, because you have come in contact with blood. So the sharps containers are puncture-proof plastic biohazard containers for disposable needles or anything sharp, and must be disposed as of medical waste, okay? That is what that container is on the screen. So let's get into handling like a blood exposure procedure, or the blood exposure or exposure incident on a client. You can find this on page 128. 128, you should never perform a service on any client who you come in contact, an open wound or a rash or an abrasion. However, sometimes accidents happen while on the service, right? So an exposure incident is contact with non-tact broken skin, blood, bodily fluid, or other potentially infectious material that is a result of performance of a worker's duty, okay? So you need to be mindful of how to perform this procedure. So how do you perform this procedure? Let's go to, you can find the actual procedure on page, you can find this on page 141. Handling an exposure client injury, okay? So you would stop the service immediately. Put on gloves if you were not already wearing gloves. Face your client and calmly apologize for the incident. If appropriate, assist your client at the sink by washing the injury off with soap and rinse it under water. Pat the injured area dry and using a clean paper towel. Offer your client antiseptic and adhesive bandage. Discard all single-use contaminated objects and wipes or cotton balls in a plastic bag and then place it in the trash. Deposit into a sharps disposable sharp box if it needs to. Dispose of the double bagged items and sharps container as required by the state law, and remove all implements from the workstation and then clean and disinfect the work surface. All right, so y'all can read more about that on page 141, and you'll see the actual exposure incident with the client injury. So we're gonna move forward into interpreting the safety data sheet. The safety data sheet can be found on page 174. 174. All right, so 174, it tells us about this safety data sheet, the SDF sheet. OSHA requires, okay? OSHA requires this safety data sheet. But the safety data sheet, it was replaced by the MSDS sheet, right? And while they contain essentially the same information, there are some significant difference between the two. While both sheets are valuable safety information about chemicals, the organized and the ease of understanding has been greatly improved in the SDS sheets, okay? The SDS. So moving forward, the different categories, you have 16 categories, 9 pictograms. So you have identification as number 1. You have hazards identification as 2, composition information, ingredients, first aid measures, firefighting measures, accidental release measures, handling and storage, exposure control, personal protection. SDS categories, number 9 would be physical and chemical properties, stability and reactivity, toxicological information, ecological information, disposal considerations, transport information, regulatory information, and other information, okay? So that is your SDS sheet. We also need to be familiar with knowing carcinogen and combustible, mutagen, and flammable. So carcinogen, right, is a substance that causes or is believed to cause cancer. A mutagen, on the other hand, is a substance that may cause cancer, but not always. Mutagens can cause increase in cellular mutations, changes some of which are harmful, others have little or no effect on the function. But combustible means material that is capable of igniting and burning. Compared to flammable, flammable material is even easier to ignite. Combustible liquid has a flash point between 100 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, while flammable liquids have a flashing point below 100 degrees, okay? All right, so let's practice chemical safety. So we need to know how to handle these products. So you can find that on page 170. So Handling chemicals. Let's talk about transportation, right? Let's talk about the transportation part. So the first time, you can find this on page 170, 171, labels, transportation, and storage, all of that. So the first time you enter into the beauty store and as a professional is exciting, right? But moving down to the next paragraph, it's also about another consideration when transporting chemicals is products that are incompatible, meaning that they should not be mixed or even stored near each other. So that is a part of handling chemicals, knowing how to transport them. Knowing whether the products that are next to each other are they incompatible, meaning that they cannot even be mixed together. So if one spill and another spill, you might have a whole combustion. So you just don't want to. You want to make sure you know how to store products. You want to know. Store products next to each other. You also want to get into storage, which is on page 172. Storage of chemicals is also very important, and it needs to be safety and strict processes that should be followed to prevent injury and fire. So having designated places to store specific chemicals and never allowing chemicals to sit out, even in a dispensing area, can mean the difference between safe and unsafe environments for you and your clients in particular. Okay? You need to know how to mix the products, right? You need to know if you can mix certain products together or how to mix them properly. You need to ensure good ventilation and protection and protective equipment. Be prepared of potential reactions. When in doubt, do not mix. Use a clean measuring device. Add chemicals to water when using concentrated chemicals like disinfectant. Label secondary containers, okay? Like if you put something in another container, make sure you label it so that you can know exactly what it is. And knowing how to dispose your chemicals as well is very important. So knowing how to dispose your chemicals on whether they can go down the drain or not, whether they can be put where they can be stored at if they need to go in a particular type of container, knowing that as well is important. Moving forward, let's describe the basic structure of functions of a cell. So moving forward, you can find this on page 28 in your regular aesthetics fundamentals book. 28. So we moving, y'all. We moving.
I'm sorry, say the page again.
28.
Okay.
We are on page 28. All right, so we're going to describe the basic structure and function of a cell, and we need to know the cells and their function according to the NIC sheet that I just sent out to y'all. So cells and their function. So what are cells? Cells are the basic unit of all living things, from bacteria to plants, animals, and human beings. Without cells, life do not exist. A basic unit or a basic functional unit, the cells is responsible for carrying on all life processes. So let's get into the structure. Let's get into the structure. All right. So the structure of the cell of all living things are composed of substance called protoplasm, a colorless jelly-like substance in which nutrients such as protein, fats, carbohydrates, mineral salts, and water are present. All right. So moving forward, you can visualize the protoplasm, right, of a cell being similar to the clear gel of a raw egg. So in addition, all right, in addition to the protoplasm, cells also include the nucleus or organelles, okay, the organelles in the cell membranes. So the nucleus is the dense active protoplasm found in the center of the cell, and it plays an important part of cell reproduction and metabolism. So you can visualize the nucleus as the yolk of a raw egg. So with the nucleus of the cell, the nucleoplasm, which is the fluid that contains proteins and very important acids known as our DNA. And it determines our genetic makeup and include color of our eyes, skin, and hair. So the protoplasm, once again, is a watery gel-like fluid containing the nutrients and materials needed for cell growth and reproduction. So once again, so the mitochondria it takes the nutrients to break them down and to create energy for cells. So this works to keep the cells full of energy, and this chemical energy used within the cells for the metabolism is called the ATP. Okay, so neurons, what is neurons? Neurons are nerve cells. They don't need as many, and you don't need as many. So the cells, they transmit, of course it sounds like that. The neurons, they transmit nerve impulses, and those are considered nerve cells. Neurons are nerve cells. All right, let's get into the cell membrane. So this is really important. The cell membrane is a part of the cell that encloses the protoplasm and permits water-soluble or soluble substances to enter and leave. So it's just like the brain. So we retain information, and the way we retain it, we can also repeat it. So that's just like the cell membrane. So make sure y'all keep that in mind. So once again, the protoplasm is considered like the yolk of the cell. The nucleus considered, I mean, not the yolk, the white, it's considered the white of the egg, or the clear gel of the white raw egg, whatever you want to call it. So it's the egg white is basically what I'm saying. That is the protoplasm, but the nucleus is the egg yolk. Sorry about that. The nucleus is the egg yolk. And then the cell membrane, which is very important, is what allows water-soluble substances to go in and out of the cells, okay? So moving forward, we're gonna go into cell division or cell reproduction and division. And you can find this on page 29. So once again, we know about mitosis, right? So mitosis is the normal process of cell reproduction in human tissue that occurs when cells divide into two identical cells called daughter cells. These are daughter cells, and as long as the conditions are favorable, the cells will grow and reproduce. We also have what we call cell metabolism. So metabolism is a chemical process. Cell metabolism is a chemical process that takes place in living organisms. Metabolism converts energy to the cell as a function, and metabolism also eliminates waste. So these functions allow organisms to grow and reproduce and respond to their environments. So keeping that in mind, cells have a metabolism, cell has a brain, the cells has everything basically. The cell makes up our DNA. So let's keep that in mind. So moving forward, then we have the tissues of the body, okay? The tissues. So there are 4 types of tissues. So we have our connective tissue. The connective tissue supports and protects and binds together tissues of the body. Okay, so you can find this on page 31. But tissues is a collective or a collection of similar cells that form a particular function. And each tissue has a specific function and can be recognized by its characteristic appearance. Once again, connective tissue supports and protects and binds together the tissues of the body. So we also know that, once again, examples of connective tissue are bone, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, blood, and fat, which is also the adipose tissue. So adipose tissue is that fatty tissue, and it stores energy and gives the body its smoothness and contour. Collagen and elastin fibers are also a part of this connective tissue. Moving forward, we have the epithelial. Knowing that epithelial, anytime you hear the epithelial, you know that's like an outer layer or an outer lining or a protective lining, okay? So the epithelial tissue is a protective lining on cavities of the body and surfaces of the organs. Examples are skin mucous membranes, the lining of the heart, digestive and respiratory organs, and glands. Muscle tissue contracts and moves the various parts of the muscles of the body or various parts of the body. And the nerve tissue, once again, nerves carry messages through the central nervous system to control and coordinate all bodily functions. Nerve tissue is composed of special cells, okay? Special cells known as neurons, okay? Which make up the nerve, brain, and spinal cord, the nerve, brain, and spinal cord. So organs and the systems. Organs and the systems. So let's get into them. We have our integumentary system, right? It's the largest organ of the body. The skin, accessories, and oil glands, sweat glands, hair receptors, and nails is an important part of the integumentary system. Okay? Skeletal system. The skeletal system forms physical foundation of the body, consists of the bones, movable and immovable joints. Okay? And the bones will be the organs of this particular bodily system or organs. Okay? So it is important for protecting your own body mechanics when working, as well as knowing physical landmarks. And this is found on page 32, y'all. We starting on page 32. So I know y'all like, well, what is the difference between organs and body systems? So organs are a collective of tissues that have identifiable structures that perform specific functions. Body systems are a group of organs acting together for one or more functions. Moving forward, let's go into the muscular system. So this function, the function of the muscular system, it covers, shapes, and supports the skeletal system, and also contracts and moves various parts of the body, consists of the muscles. The organs for this would be the muscles of the body. And it is very important to know when doing massage and performing electrical treatments, such as microcurrent, you need to know the muscles of the body and the muscles of the face. The nervous system. The nervous system carries messages through the central nervous system, controlling and coordinating all bodily functions. Brain, spinal cord, nerves is a part of the nervous system. The circulatory system. The circulatory system controls the steady delivery of the blood through the body, works through the lymphatic channels, heart, and blood vessels. Okay, the heart and blood vessels are a part of the circulatory system. The immune/lymphatic system protects the body from disease by developing resistance and destroying disease-causing toxins for material and bacteria. The spleen and the lymph nodes, or the spleen and the lymph, would be a part of these organs, a part of the organs of their body. I mean, of this particular system or function. Moving forward, the endocrine. The endocrine system basically affects growth, development, sexual activities, normal regulatory processes of the body, consists of specialized glands. And the glands that will be a part of this, or the organs that will be a part of this particular system, would be adrenal glands, the pancreas. Once again, we also have the reproductive system. The reproductive system performs the functions of producing children and passing on our genetics from one generation to another. And it differentiates between the sexes. The uterus, the ovaries, the penis, and the testes are a part of the reproductive. The respiratory system. The respiratory system enables breathing, supplies the body with oxygen, and eliminates carbon dioxide as a waste product. Lungs, the trachea, and the bronchi. The digestive system. The digestive systems. The digestive system is, it breaks down food into smaller particles to absorb nutrients for excretion. The esophagus, the stomach, gallbladder, liver, and large intestines would be the organs or the digestive system. The excretory system. The excretory system refers to elimination of waste matter. The kidneys and the bladder would be a part of, would be the organs for the excretory system. Moving forward, let's list the 5 accessory organs to the skin. Accessory organs to the skin. Okay, accessory organs to the skin. So we have the integumentary system. We have the integumentary system, and it is made up of skin, basically. So we know our integumentary system is skin, basically, and it has various accessory organs such as sensory receptors, hair, nails, and oil and sweat glands called the exocrine gland. So we kind of touched on this a little bit. So moving forward, those are the accessory organs to the skin, the 5 accessory organs to the skin. Sensory receptors, hair, nails, oil, and sweat gland. All right, so the 5 functions of the skeletal system. Let's get into it. So we're gonna dig a little deeper this time, okay? Just because I want y'all to be a little bit more, have a little bit more information to take with y'all today. So we have the skeletal system. All right, so once again, we know that the skeletal system forms the physical foundation of the body. So the number of bones and composition. As an adult skeleton, they have 206 bones that form the ridge framework of which the soft tissues and the organs of the body are encased, and acts as an anchor point for the muscles and the ligaments. So we know 206, y'all. We are on page 35, just in case you were looking. So this is on page 35, y'all. And y'all need to know this because it's important, because I don't want y'all going without all this information. This is very important. Because one thing I do know, that on StateBoard, they will talk about the skeletal system, infection control, disease and disorders, and of course, histology and physiology. So we're going to stay on this a little bit longer. So moving forward, we have the 206 bones that are the ridge framework, which is inside of our bodies as adults, right? Moving forward, the functions of the skeletal system, it gives shape to support the body, protects from various internal structures of the organs. It serves as attachment for muscles to produce body movement, okay? So we need to know this, and it helps produce both white and red blood cells. It also stores the body calcium, magnesium, and sodium, okay? The bones of the skull, I'm going to talk about these. This is on page 36. These is extra notes for y'all. The bones of the skull. We have our parietal bone, which is on the back of towards the back of that crown, or the parietal ridge area. We have the occipital bone. We have the frontal bone, the sphenoid bone, which is behind the eyes, the ethmoid. You have that ethmoid. So the ethmoid bone is a light spongy bone between the eye sockets that form a part of the nasal cavities. The sphenoid forms the side of the eye sockets. All right, y'all following me?
Yes.
Okay, cool beans. All right, so once again, I'm gonna talk about these bones one more time. The occipital bone forms the back of the skull above the nape. The parietal, two parietal bones, or that parietal ridge, as I like to call it, forms the sides of the crown top of the cranium. The frontal bone forms the forehead. The temporal bones form the sides of the head and the ear region. The ethmoid bone is the light spongy bone between the eye sockets. And that sphenoid forms the sides of the eye socket. Now we have the bones. Okay, you have the zygomatic arch. That zygomatic bone, which is right there by the cheekbone area. The maxillaria and the mandible, which forms the jawbone. I'm just talking about this one skull on the left-hand side of me, right? So I wanted to touch on those, even though I'm gonna touch on them again. I just know you need to see them from the side as well. So y'all need to remember these bones at least a little bit, okay? Moving forward, once again, we talked about the frontal bone. You can see it from the front. You can see that, let's talk about that lacriminal bone. The lacriminal bone is the smallest and the most fragile bone of the face and are situated at the front and side part of the eye socket. The nasal bone forms the bridge of the nose. It forms the bridge of the nose. The nasal bone forms the bridge of the nose. The two zygomatic bones are also known as the malar bones or the cheekbones. They form the prominence of the cheeks. And the maxillae bones form the upper jaws, and the mandible forms the lower jawbone and the largest and the strongest bone of the face. That's why it's called the mandible, because it's like a man, so it's the strongest bone of the face. All right, so we're gonna move forward. To the bones of the neck. All right, so we have our hyoid bone. The hyoid bone is the U-shaped bone at the base of the tongue that supports the tongue and its muscle. The cervical vertebrae is the 7 bones of the top part of the vertebral column located in the neck region. Y'all following me? So that neck region right there, that is your vertebrae bones. All 7 of them. It's 7 of them, y'all. Bones of the chest. So the bones of the chest, we have our thorax, which is the chest or the pulmonary trunk, consisting of the sternum, the ribs, the thorax, the vertebrae, and it's the last and bony cage that serves as the protective framework for the heart, lungs, and other internal organs. We also have ribs. The ribs are the 12 pair of bones forming the wall of the thorax. The scapula. The scapula is also known as the shoulder blade, the large, flat, triangular bone of the shoulder where there are 2 scapules. We also have the sternum. The sternum is also known as that breastbone, the flat bone that forms the ventral front support of the ribs. We have our clavicle, of course, which is known as the collarbone, and the bone that joins the sternum and the scapula together. All right. Moving forward, bones of the hand and the arm, the arms and the hand. Bones of the arm and the hand. So we have the humerus. It is the uppermost and largest bone of the arm extending from the elbow to the shoulder. We have the ulna. It's the inner and the larger bone of the forearm attached to the wrist located on the side of the finger. The radius is the smaller bone in the forearm on the same side of the thumb. The carpus, which is known as the wrist, and its flexible joint composed of 8 small irregular bones held together by ligaments. The metacarpus is also known as palms, consisting of 5 long slender bones called metacarpal bones. The phalanges are also known as digits, and they are the bones in the fingers, 3 in each finger and 2 in each thumb, totaling 14 bones, okay? Totaling 14 bones. So let's recognize the muscles. The muscles involved in aesthetic massage. The muscular system, we talked about this. This covers shape and supports the skeletal tissues. Muscles are fibrous tissues with the ability to stretch and contract according to the demands of the body movements. This system can contract and move various parts of the body. All right, so let's talk about the numbers of muscles and composition. The human has 630 muscles, which are responsible for approximately 40% of the body's weight. Out of the 360 muscles, 30 are the facial muscles, okay? 30 are the facial muscles. The parts of the muscles or the skeletal muscles, the origin, the belly, and the insertion. The origin, the belly, and the insertion. So you wanna massage insertion to origin. Moving forward, you have your, once again, the origin, the belly, and the insertion. The origin is the most fixed part of the muscle close to the skeleton, which flexes but remains stationary. The belly is the middle part of the muscle, and the insertion is the part of the muscle that is movable, the movable attachment, and farthest from the skeleton, okay? Muscles of the scalp. They kind of are similar to the bones, right? So the muscles are, the esthetician's most concerned about the frontalis, which is the scalp muscle raised above the eyebrow. So just kind of know that these muscles and bones kind of match together. The epicranius is also known as the occipital frontalis, and is a board muscle that covers the top of the skull, and it has two parts. Moving forward, the occipitalis is the back of the epicranius and is the muscle that draws the scalp backwards. The muscles of the eyebrow. Muscles of the eyebrow. Corrugator. The corrugator is the muscle located beneath the frontalis and the orbicularis oculi. The orbicularis oculi is the ring muscle of the eye socket. It basically closes the eye. The levator, palpebrae superior muscle, controls the eyelid and can be easily damaged during makeup application. The muscles of the nose, the procerus, it lowers the eyebrows and causes wrinkles across the bridge of the nose. Okay? The nasalis is a two-part muscle that covers the nose and includes the transverse part of the outer part, which flares the nostrils. The muscles of the mouth, these are highlighted in yellow. The buccinator is a thin, flat muscle of the cheek between the upper and lower jaw that compresses the cheek and expels air between the lips. Okay? Moving forward, the triangularis. The triangularis is also known as the depressor irregular oris, okay? And is the muscle extended alongside the chin, pulls down the corners of the mouth. The mentalis is the muscle that elevates and elevates the lower lip, and raises and wrinkles the skin of the chin. The orbicularis oris is the flat band around the upper and lower lips that compresses, contracts, puckers, and wrinkles the lips. The levator angular oris is the muscle that is associated with smiling. The restoris is the muscle that draws the corners of the mouth out of the back when grinning, and the levator labii superius is the muscle associated with lifting the wings of the nose and the upper lips. It is sometimes called the quadratus labii superius, okay? And the zygomaticus. The zygomaticus is major and minor. Major and minor are muscles extending from the zygomatic bone to angle the mouth that elevates the lip and in laughing, okay? All right, muscles of chewing. Muscles of chewing. right? Muscles of chewing. So we have the masseter and the temporalis, okay? The masseter and the temporalis. Muscles of the ear. The muscles of the ear is the auricularis muscles. They work together and moves the ear upward and forward and backwards. The muscles of the neck is the platysma, is the board muscle extending from the chest and the shoulder muscles up to the side of the chin, and is responsible for lowering the jawline and lips. This one right here, most of the time, sorry, the sternomastoid, the sternocleidoid mastoidea is the muscle extending along the neck from the ear to the collarbone, and it acts to rotate the head from the side to side and up and down. I know for a fact most of the time this particular muscle is on StateBoard. Muscles that attach the arms to the body. Latissimus dorsi is the flat triangular muscle that covers the lower back. The peticularis major and minor are muscles of the chest that assist to swinging the arms and moving them, okay? Muscles of the shoulders and the arm. The trapezius muscle covers this muscle covers the back of the neck, shoulders, and the upper middle region of the back, and shrugs the shoulders and stabilizes the scapula. The biceps are muscles that produce the contour of the front and the inner side of the upper arm. The deltoid is a large triangular muscle covering the shoulder joints that allow the arm to extend outward into the side of the body. The triceps is a large muscle that covers the entire back of the upper arm and extends the forearm. So the nervous system. Give me 1 second. All right, so the nervous system is on page 48. Nerves. What are nerves? The nervous system is an exceptionally well-organized system that is responsible for coordinating all the many activities that are performed by the body. There's 100 billion nerve cells known as neurons. And the scientific study and the structure, function, and pathology of the nervous system is called neurology. All right. Nerves, types of nerves. You have your sensory nerves. These nerves carries impulses or messages from the sense organs on the brain. So these basically, the sensory nerves carries impulses or messages from the sense organs to the brain, where sensations such as touch, cold, heat, sight, hearing, smelling, and tasting, pain, and pressure is experienced. So sensory nerves endings are called receptors. The sensory nerve endings are called receptors and are located close to the surface of the skin. The motor nerves. They carry impulses from the brain to the muscle or the glands. And reflex. A reflex is an automatic nerve reaction to the stimulus that involves a movement, okay? That involves a movement of the impulse from the sensory receptors along with the sensory nerves to the spinal cord and the responsive impulse. All right, let's get into these cranial. The fifth cranial nerve. The fifth cranial nerve. The fifth cranial nerve. Let's see There we go. The fifth cranial nerve is also known as the trifacial or the trigeminal nerve. So the fifth cranial nerve is considered the trifacial or the trigeminal nerve, okay? And all of these nerves on the face is basically correlating with the bones and the muscles on the face. And they have a nerve too as well. So they have three things: a muscle, a bone, and a nerve most of the time. So you guys can look at that on page 52. We also have the seventh cranial nerve. The seventh cranial nerve is also known as the facial nerve and is a chief motor nerve. Listen to me, y'all. If you don't know nothing else, you need to know what nerve these are. So you need to know the fifth nerve is the trifacial or the trigeminal nerve, and that is on page 52. The seventh cranial nerve is also known as the facial nerve, and is the chief motor nerve of the face. That's on page 52. The 11th cranial nerve. The 11th cranial nerve is also known as an accessory nerve and is a type of motor that controls the motion of the neck and shoulders muscles. And this nerve is important to estheticians because it is the effect during facials primarily with massage, because it has the effect during facials primarily with massage. So this is the 11th cranial nerve, which is the accessory nerve, okay? Moving forward, nerves of the arm. You have your median nerve and your radial nerve. Once again, you got your digital, your radial, your ulnar nerve. These all kind of go right with their bone and their muscle. So you have to understand that 9 times out of 10, if it got a bone, it got a nerve, and it got a muscle that goes correlating with it. So moving forward, the circulatory system. The circulatory system, we know, consists of the heart. Our heart, the circulatory system, is also known as the cardiovascular system, and it controls steady circulation of the blood through the body by the means of the heart and the blood vessels. So the heart is often referred to as the body's pump, right? The body's pump. What else is in the cardiovascular system? Blood vessels. Blood vessels are tube-like structures that include arteries, areoles, capillaries, venules, and veins. The blood is a part of the circulatory system. The blood is a nutritive fluid circulating through the circulatory system and considered connective tissue because it connects the body systems together, bringing oxygen, nutrients, and hormones, and removing waste products. There are 8 to 10 pints, which means 3.8 to 4.7 liters of blood in the human body. It is sticky and salty and normally 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. The composition of blood, it has red cells, white blood cells, plasma, and platelets. Moving forward. This is a lot to take in, y'all. I understand. The arteries of the face, head, and neck. Arteries. Common arteries of the face, head, and neck are common carotid arteries, are the main source of blood supply to the head, face, and neck. Okay? Moving forward, veins of the head, face, and neck are the blood returning to the heart from the head, the face, and the neck, and it flows on each side of the neck. 2 principal veins are the internal jugular vein and the external jugular vein. Moving forward, let's get into the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system, it is a vital factor to the circulatory system and the immune system, and it is made up of liver, lymph nodes, thymus glands, spleen, and lymph vessels. Okay? This is what the lymphatic and the immune system is made up of. The endocrine system. The endocrine system. The endocrine system is a group of specialized glands that affects the growth, development, sexual activities, and state of health in the entire body. Glands are specialized organs that produce chemicals, including hormones, necessary for body systems to function optimally. The endocrine glands are also known as the duct glands. It releases secretions, hormones directly into the bloodstream. Okay? Hormones are such as insulin, adrenaline, and estrogen. Reproductive system. For a female, we know that the reproductive system includes the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, and the vagina, the uterus, and all those things, right? The female and the male has two different things. We have a uterus, the endometrium, ovaries, cervix, vagina, fallopian tubes. That's what the female has. The male has the prostate gland, the vas, the testes, the urethra, and the urinary bladder. All right, so let's get into these layers of the skin. So that was all of the stuff that was inside of basically your anatomy and physiology chapter. So moving forward, let's get into understanding histology and physiology of the skin as it relates to the structure and the layers of the skin. You're going to find this on page 91. Okay. So we're going from the deepest to the surface. So we're going from the bottom all the way inside from the dermis all the way to the epidermis. Moving forward, the subcutaneous layer is also known as the hypodermis or the superficial fascia, and it's composed of loose connective tissue or subcutaneous or subcutaneous tissue, also known as adipose tissue. Okay, that's the subcutaneous layer. The subcutaneous layer is that fatty layer, adipose tissue. Now we're going into the dermis. The dermis is also called the corium. The corium, cutis. This is called the true skin, or it's called the true skin. Why is this the true skin? Because everything happens in here. Did you have something you need to say?
Yeah. Can you repeat the subcutaneous layer one more time?
Okay. So the subcutaneous layer is also known as the hypodermis or the superficial fascia, and it is comprised of loose connective tissue or subcutaneous tissue, also known as adipose tissue. So this layer is this subcutaneous layer is known as the hypodermis, the superficial fascia, is loose connective tissue, and subcutaneous tissue, and it's also known as the adipose tissue. So this layer right here got like 5 different names, basically. So just be prepared because this is the hypodermis, the superficial fascia, it has loose connective tissue, subcutaneous tissue, and it's also known as adipose tissue. Most likely you'll see adipose tissue. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, love. All right, so the dermis. The dermis is also called the derma corium. The derma corium. Cutis, okay? This is the true skin. And it's the support layer of connective tissue above the hypodermis. So the dermis is about 25 times thicker. Pay attention, 25 times thicker than the epidermis. And consists of 2 layers. The dermis consists of 2 layers. So moving from the bottom to the top, right? The reticulatory layer is the denser, deeper layer of the dermis, and is comprised of mainly collagen and elastin. The papillary layer is it connects the dermis to the epidermis. The dermal papillae are membranes of the ridges and the grooves that attach to the epidermis, okay? So attached to the dermal papillae are either looped capillaries that nourish the epidermis or tactile corpuscles. What you can find in here is the hair follicles that are called a hair papillae. You can find this in the papillary layer. And then the hair papillae are small cone-shaped structures at the bottom of the follicle. Blood supply, nourishment within the skin, and through capillaries. This is all found in this layer. This is how the hair gets its nourishment inside of the papillary layer. Collagen is a protein substance of complex fibers that gives the skin its strength and is necessary for wound healing. Elastin is the fibrous protein that forms elastic tissue and gives the skin its elasticity. All right, moving forward. Let's talk about this dermal-epidermal junction. The dermis-epidermal junction connects the dermis to the epidermis. The junction consists of layers of connective collagen tissue with many small pockets and holes. Collagen fibrils from the dermis are embedded into these layers to provide strength and adhesion. Keratin filaments on the epidermis side also ensure strength and adhesion to the junction. The epidermis. The epidermis is the outermost layer of the skin. This is the epithelial tissue that covers our body. So remember, once again, the epithelial tissue that covers our body. It is a thin protective covering with many nerve endings. The epidermis is composed of 5 layers called the stratum, which is singular. Stratum means singular. The stratum germinativum from the bottom, the stratum spinosum, the stratum granulosum, the stratum lucidum, the stratum lucidum, and the stratum corneum. So what's in these layers? The stratum germinativum, right? The stratum germinativum is also known as the basal layer, right? And it's located at the dermis and is composed of single layers of basal cells laying at the basement membrane. So the easiest way to remember this is to know that this is the bottom basal or basement layer. German cockroaches are in the basement sometimes. Like if you on a low level, you'll see them, German cockroaches. So if this is the best way you can remember this layer, the basal basement layer, germinativum, the stratum germinativum, that's how you can remember that, okay? So mother cells divide to form daughter cells, and some stem cells and daughter cells always remain undifferentiated and keep dividing in constant self-renewal over a lifetime. So these cells become glands, follicles, tissues, and organs. So right here is where that mitosis or that those cells are growing to become something. They are being nourished to become either a hair follicle or anything, or whatever it needs to be. Let's get into melaninocytes. So the basal layer produces the necessary lipids that form cells membrane and holds together cells. So Merkel cells, sensory cells, are touch receptors, also located in the basal layer. The stratum germinativum also contains melaninocytes, which are the cells that produce pigment granules in the basal layer. About 5 to 10% of the basal layer are melaninocytes. The pigment carrying the granules are called melanosomes and then produce a complex protein called melanin. So melaninocytes produce the pigment. Follow me. Melanocytes produce the pigment. Melanosomes carries out the pigment to create melanin. All right, so it's 3 stages. The melanocytes, which is the pigment, being carried out by melanosomes, going into melanin, okay? Moving forward, there are 2 types of melanin. There's pheomelanin and eumelanin. All right, there's 2 types of melanin, pheomelanin and eumelanin. All right, moving forward, let's go into stratum spinosum. The stratum spinosum is also known as a spiny layer and is above the stratum germinativum. Cells continue to divide and change shape here, and enzymes creating lipids and proteins. Desmosomes. Desmosomes are keratin filaments. All right, desmosomes are keratin filaments, the protein bonds that create the junction between the cells. Also, Langerhans immune cells are found here. They protect the body from infection by identifying foreign material. So the immune cells help destroy the foreign invaders. So just remember that not only do this spiny layer has desmosomes, which is a keratin filament, but the immune cells are actually in this layer too as well. And this is found on page 96. All right, so the stratum stratum granulosum, not germinativum. The stratum granulosum is also known as the granular layer, and it's composed of cells that resemble granules and are filled with keratin. The production of keratin and intercellular lipids. And intercellular lipids also takes place here. The stratum lucidum. The stratum lucidum is the thin, clear layer. The thin, clear layer, okay? This is a thin, clear layer of dead skin cells under the stratum corneum. It is a translucent layer made up of small cells. Light passes through this layer. It's the clear layer. The stratum corneum. The stratum corneum is also known as the horny layer and is the top outermost layer of the epidermis. The esthetician works extensively with this layer. The stratum corneum is very thin in a sense, okay? It regenerates itself, detoxifies, yet is waterproof and permeable, okay? Corneocytes are found on this layer, right? Corneocytes. What is corneocytes? Keratinocytes on the surface hardening into corneocytes, the waterproof protective cells. Corneocytes are the waterproof protective cells. Desquamation is also done here. Desquamation is shedding of the skin in the process called desquamation. So dead skin cells is what you would call desquamation. All right, we talked about melanin already. Let's get into these glands, the oil glands, the sebaceous glands. All right, we find this on page 103. 103. All right, so the sebaceous glands are connected to the hair follicle and produce oil, which protects the surface of the skin. Granular sacs open to the follicle through ducts. The ducts become clogged, open, or closed comedones and are formed what? The oily secretions lubricate both the skin and hair. Sebaceous glands are larger on the face and scalp than on the rest of the body. Okay? That are the sebaceous oil glands. The sudoriferous glands. The sudoriferous glands, which are the sweat glands. I want to go back to sebaceous. So remember that whenever you see SEB, that means oil. Sebum, sebaceous. Sebum, sebaceous. All right? So remember that the SEB, remember that that's the oil gland, okay? When you get the sudoriferous, that's a lot sweat glands doing a lot of activity. Sudoriferous, okay, is the sweat glands, okay? Sudoriferous glands help to regulate body temperature and eliminate minute amounts of waste products by excreting sweat. They have coil-based and duct openings at the surface known as pores, okay? There are two types of sudoriferous glands. The apocrine gland are coiled structures attached to the hair follicle found under the arms. Okay, we on page 104. And the eccrine glands are found all over the body, but primarily on the forehead, palms of the hands, and soles of the feet. Okay. The 6 primary functions. Let's get into these 6 primary functions of the skin. We find this on page 86. 86, y'all. All right, so moving forward. What is our first one? Sensation, protection, heat regulation, excretion, secretion, absorption. So let's get into sensation. Sensation is touch. So touch is one of the first senses of development. Nerve fibers and the skin sense when we are touched. Okay, so depending on the type of stimulation, sensations are felt on the skin and causes us to feel, react, and move. So different nerve sensors help us to detect different sensations, to perceive the changes in our environment, such as heat, cold, touch, pain, and pressure. Moving forward, you have protection. Protection is the skin. Protection is the skin is a thin yet protective barrier to the outside elements and microorganisms. So of course, our skin has to protect us. Moving forward, it has many defense mechanisms to protect the body from injury and invasion. Sebum, which is oil, on the epidermis gives protection to the external factors such as invasion by certain bacteria. These components form a hydrophilic film to protect the skin from dying out and from exposure. The barrier function, let's get into the barrier function. Or the acid mantle is a part of the skin's natural barrier function. And barrier function is the skin's mechanism that protects us from irritation and intercellular transepidermal water loss. The water loss caused by evaporation on the skin surface. Okay? Moving forward, we have heat regulation. Maintains thermal regulation through evaporation, perspiration, radiation, and insulation. The body average internal thermostat is set at 98.6, which is the same as our blood, right? When the outside temperature changes, the skin automatically adjusts to warm or cool the body as necessary. So the body maintains thermal regulation through evaporation. Okay, we talked about that, perspiration, and radiation and insulation. So million of sweat glands release heat from the body through perspiration to keep us from overheating. And when we cool ourselves through evaporation, the skin surface, blood flows through the blood vessels, dilation also assisting cooling the body. We protect ourselves from cold by constricting the blood vessels and decrease blood flow. Additionally, the body's fat layers help to insulate and warm the body. The hair follicles also help regulate the body temperature and protect from heat loss. When we are cold, the erectile pili muscles attached to the hair follicle contracts and causes goosebumps. Moving forward, we have excretion and secretion. Excretion, which is a part of the sudoriferous glands, which we just discussed, also known as the sweat glands, excrete perspiration, and many people believe that sweat detoxifies the body, but less than 1% of the body detoxification comes through perspiration. Okay, so we know that it's the sweat gland. Secretion, which is sebum, is an oily substance that protects the surface of the skin and lubricates the skin and hair. Sebaceous glands, which we also touched on, is also known as oil glands and are appendages attached to the follicles that produce sebum. These oils help to keep the skin soft. The skin is approximately 50 to 70% of water. We also have absorption. Absorption of chemicals, hormones, moisture, and oxygen is necessary for our skin's health. Of course, we need vitamin D, and vitamin D is also synthesized and produced in the skin upon exposure to the sun. The skin selectively absorbs topical products, serums, creams through cells, hair follicles, and sebaceous glands. All right, you can find all of that inside of chapter 3. And the last one was the last function of the skin was found on page 90. All right, so let's get into understanding disorders and diseases as it relates to the sebaceous glands. So of course we know that we'll find this on page 131. So we've been going for an hour and a half. We're on good timing. All right. 131, y'all. All right, so acne. Acne is an inflammatory skin disorder of the sebaceous glands, medically known as acne simplex or acne vulgaris. The papules are So papules, pustules, and cysts are a part of acne. So papules are red inflamed lesions caused by this process. Papules may become more infected and develop pus. These infected papules become pustules. Pustules are filled with fluid from dead and white blood cells that fought in the infection. Cysts are nodules made up of deep pockets of infection. Skin forms hardened tissues around the infections to stop the spread of bacteria, which can lead to both depressed and raised scars from damage to dermal tissue. All right. So let's get into the types of sebaceous gland disorders or disorders of the sebaceous glands. Of course, we have comedoe. Comedoe is a non-inflamed buildup of cells, sebum, and other debris inside the follicle. An open comedoe is a blackhead open at the surface and exposed to air. A closed comedoe forms when the opening of the follicle are blocked with debris. Moving forward, we have sebaceous filaments. Sebaceous filaments are similar to open comedones. They are mainly small, solidified impactions of oil without cell matter. You're going to find this on page 132. We also have milia. Milia are small epidermal cysts that appear as firm white papules. Milias are white pearl-like masses of sebum and dead cells under the skin with no visible opening. Milia do not have an opening and are often mistakenly called whiteheads. But whiteheads do look similar to those, but they are not that because they have no visible opening. Moving forward, we also have retention hyperkeratosis. Retention hyperkeratosis is a hereditary factor in which dead skin cells build up because they do not shed from the follicle as they do on a normal skin. Sebaceous hyperplasia. It involves benign lesions frequently seen on oily areas of the face. They are often white, yellow, or flesh color. Sebaceous hyperplasia is described as donut shape with an indentation in the center. Seborrhea. Seborrhea is a severe oiliness of the skin, an abnormal secretion from sebaceous gland. There are different grades of acne. There's grade 1, where minor breakouts, mostly open comedones, some closed comedones, and few papules. Grade 2, many closed comedones are open comedones and occasional papules and pustules. Grade 3, red and inflamed, many comedones, papules, and pustules. And grade 4 would be cystic acne, cysts with comedones, papules, pustules, and inflammation. You find this on page 134. So we're going to get into the 5 sudoriferous glands. 5 sudoriferous gland disorders. You're going to find it on page 154. 154. All right, we got anhidrosis. A deficiency in perspiration due to failure of the sweat glands often results from fever or skin disease. Anhidrosis requires medical treatment. We have bromhidrosis. Bromhidrosis, listen. All right, I know y'all remember me telling y'all the easiest way to remember bromhidrosis is to think of a little boy, okay? So foul smelling perspiration, usually in the armpits or the feet. Bromhidrosis is caused by bacteria and yeast that breaks down the sweat on the surface of the skin. Hyperhidrosis. Hyperhidrosis is caused by heat, genetic stress, or medication. This is chronic excessive perspiration. We also have diaphoresis, excessive perspiration due to an underlying medical condition. Menopause is an example. Malaria rubra. Malaria rubra is also known as prickly heat, acute inflammatory disorder of the sweat glands result in eruption of red vesicles and burning, itching skin from excessive heat exposure. Define non-contagious skin and nail diseases. So let's get into that. All right, so contagious diseases would be on page 149. 149, y'all. All right, conjunctivitis. Conjunctivitis is also known as pink eye, inflammation of the mucous membrane around the eye due to chemical, bacteria, or viral causes. It's very contagious and can be treated with antibiotics. Herpes simplex 1 is fever blisters or cold sores, recurring viral infection, a vesicle or a group of vesicles on a red swollen base. The blisters usually appear around the lips or the nostrils. Herpes simplex 1 causes cold sores and lesions around the mouth. Herpes simplex 2 is genital herpes. Never work on clients with the active herpes lesion. Peeling, waxing, or other stimuli may cause a breakout even if the condition is currently not active. Herpes zoster. Herpes zoster is also known as shingles, a painful skin condition due to reactivation of the chickenpox virus, also known as the varicella zoster virus. Impetigo is a bacterial infection of the skin that often occurs in children, characterized by clusters of small blisters or crusty lesions filled with bacteria. Onychomycosis. So it's a fungal infection that produces symptoms of thick, brittle, discolored nails. The fungus lives off the keratin in the nails. Tinea is a fungal infection. Fungi feeding on protein, carbohydrates, and lipids in the skin. Tinea pedis is the athlete's foot and is a fungal infection that can be treated with antifungal topical powders. Moving forward, Tinea corpus. Tinea corpus is also known as ringworm, caused by a fungus, and it's not a worm. It is not a worm, but it looks like a skin irritation that spreads in a circular infection that is red and scaly, and sometimes it can be dry or moist. It is very, very contagious. Verruca is a wart, also known as a wart or a hypertrophy of the papillae and epidermis caused by a virus. They are not cancerous, but they are contagious. All right, so let's get into common vascular conditions or disorder, and these would be also considered inflammations of the skin. You can find them on page 140, starting at 140. Rosacea will be one. Rosacea is an inflammatory and vascular disorder with multiple causes that are not completely understood. Okay, they are not completely understood, but it's a progressive disorder that starts with the flushing and the increasing of bouts of redness. Okay. Telangiectasia, okay, is a visible capillaries, and about 0.5 to 1 millimeter in a diameter that are commonly found on the face, particularly around the nose, cheeks, and chin area. Varicose veins are visible vascularly that are abnormally dilated and twisted veins that occur anywhere in the body. Dermatitis. Let's get into the different types of dermatitis, okay? You can find this on give me 1 second. Okay, so the different types of dermatitis are found on page 145, and that's still a part of skin inflammations. So dermatitis is generally a term referred to as an inflammatory condition of the skin. Various forms include lesions such as eczema, vesicles, and papules. Okay. Moving forward, contact dermatitis would be one. Contact occupational disorders from ingredients in cosmetic and chemical solution can cause contact dermatitis or dermatitis veneta. Contacts with allergens and caustic chemicals can cause skin sensitivity or disorders. So that would be considered contact dermatitis. Allergic contact dermatitis. Allergic contact dermatitis is caused by exposure to a direct skin contact with the allergen. We also need to know, this looks really nasty. Okay. Also, we need to know the development of hypersensitivity is a result repeated exposure of an allergen over time. This process is called sensitization, and it may take months or years depending on the allergen and the intensity of the exposure, okay? Moving forward, atopic dermatitis. Atopic dermatitis is a chronic relapsing form of dermatitis, okay? A chronic relapsing form of dermatitis. Eczema. Eczema is an inflammatory, painful, itching disease of the skin. Is acute or chronic in nature and has dry or moist lesion. Irritant contact dermatitis is everyone who comes in contact with an irritant is affected by irritant reactions, although the degree of irritation will vary depending on the individual. Periodermatitis is an acne-like condition. An acne-like condition around the mouth consisting mainly of small clusters and papules. Seborrheic dermatitis. Seborrheic dermatitis is a form of eczema characterized by inflammation, dry or oily scaling, crusting, or itchiness. So period is the mouth area. I want to go back to that. Period is the mouth area. So make sure y'all remember that. Period. All right, seborrheic dermatitis, we went over that. Stasis dermatitis is caused by poor circulation in the lower leg that can create a chronic inflammatory state. Pigmentation disorders. Pigmentation disorders. We can find that on page 142. 142. So the first one would be hyperpigmentation. Hyperpigmentation is overproduction of pigmentation, and hypopigmentation is lack of pigmentation. And there are two types of pigmentation disorders. Common causes would be sun exposure and drugs. Here are some of the hyperpigmentations. Melasma. Melasma is a type of hormonal hyperpigmentation disorder that first appears during pregnancy or with the use of birth control pills. Lentigo. Lentigo is a flat pigmented area similar to freckles, small yellow-brown spots. Lentigens are multiple pigment lesions, okay? Lentigens. Ephthalites. Ephthalates are also known as freckles and are tiny round or oval pigmented areas on the face exposed to the sun. The next one is a nevus. A nevus is also known as a birthmark and is a malformation of the skin from abnormal pigmentation or dilated capillaries. Poikiloderma of Savant is a skin condition caused by acneic bronzing or sun exposure, or chronic sun exposure to the side effects of the face and neck. Post-inflammatory or PIH is darkened pigmentation due to the injury to the skin or residual healing after acne lesion has resolved. Tan, a tan would be another result from the sun exposure. Is a result from the sun exposure. Hypopigmentation is leukoderma. Leukoderma would be one, and it's the loss of pigmentation leading to light abnormal patches of the pigmented skin. Albinism. Albinism is a rare genetic condition characterized by a lack of melanin pigment in the body, including skin, hairs, and eyes. Vitiligo. Vitiligo is a pigmentation disease characterized by white, irregular patches of the skin that are totally lacking pigment. Okay. Tinea versicolor. Tinea versicolor, are also called, is a fungal condition that inhibits melanin production. It's a fungal condition that prohibits melanin production. You'll see a lot of that on in the summertime from sun exposure and moisture. So once again, we got to get these hypertrophies out the way. Hypertrophies or skin growths. Skin growths is found on page 148. Hypertrophies is defined as abnormal growths. Many are benign and harmless. However, some growths are pre-malignant or malignant and can be dangerous or cancerous. Hyperkeratosis is thickening of the skin caused by mass of keratinocytes. Keratoma is the acquired thickened patch of the epidermis. A callus caused by pressure or friction and is a keratoma. Keratosis is abnormally thick buildup of skin cells. Keratosis pilaris is redness and bumpiness in the cheeks, upper arms, or thighs caused by blocked follicles. It appears as chicken skin. A mole is a pigment nevus, a brownish spot ranging in color from tan to bluish black, and some are flat, resembling freckles. Psoriasis is an itchy skin disease characterized by patches covered with white silver scales caused by over-proliferation of skin cells that replicate too fast. Moving forward, we also have skin tags. Small outgrowths or extensions of skin that looks like a flat. The types of cancers, okay? We have the types of cancers that are out here. You'll find that on page 128. All right, so we have a normal mole, which is a brownish spot ranging in color form, a pale tan to brown to bluish black. This is not a type of cancer. We have basal cell carcinoma, the most common and least severe type of cancer, which often appears as light pearly nodules, resulting in a sore reddish patch or a smooth growth with an elevated border. Squamous cell carcinoma, more serious than basal cell carcinoma, characterized by scaly, red, pink papules or nodules. Also appear as open sores or crusty areas and can grow and spread on the body. Malignant melanoma. Malignant is very ignorant. It's a very dangerous type of cancer. It's really serious. The most serious form of skin cancer, as it can spread quickly. Black or dark patches on the skin are usually uneven in texture, jagged or raised. Melanomas, they have surface crust or bleed. Malignant melanoma is the least common, but is 100% fatal if left untreated. Early detection and treatment can result in a 94% 5-year survival rate, but that drops drastically 62% once it reaches the local lymph nodes. All right, so y'all see those melanomas. All right, primary and secondary and tertiary lesions, okay? So really primary and secondary lesions, you'll find this on page 123. Moving forward, primary, secondary, and tertiary lesions, okay? Primary lesions will be a bulle. A bulle is a large blister containing a watery fluid similar to a vesicle. A cyst or a tubercle, closed, abnormally developed sac that contains pus, semi-fluid, or morbid matter. A macule is a flat spot or discoloration on the skin. A nodule is a solid bump larger than 0.4 inches that can be easily felt. A papule is another primary lesion. a small elevated on the skin that contains no fluid, but may develop pus. A pustule is a raised inflamed papule with white or yellow center containing pus at the top of the lesion. A tumor, which is another primary lesion, abnormal mass varying in size, shape, and color. Any size of abnormal mass, not always cancerous. It's not always cancerous. A vessel, a small blister or sac containing clear fluid lying within or just beneath the epidermis and requires medical referral if caused in unknown or untreated able to over-the-counter products. A wheal is an itchy swollen lesion that can be caused by a blow, scratch, bite of an insect. So keeping this in mind. All right, let's get into the secondary lesions. Secondary lesions are crust, all right, so it's crust. Crust would be another one, a secondary lesion. Dead cells that form over a wound, blemish while healing, accumulation of sebum and pus. Excoriation would be another one, skin sore or abrasion produced by scratching or scraping. A fissure is a crack in the skin, penetrate the dermis, deep into penetrates to the dermis. A keloid is a thick scar resulting in excessive growth of fibrous tissue. Keloids will form along any type of scar for people susceptible to them. A scale is a thin, dry, or oily plate of the epidermis flakes, and a scar is a slightly raised or depressed area of the skin that forms as a result of healing process related to an injury or lesion. Once again, we also have an ulcer. An ulcer is an open lesion on the skin or mucous membrane of the body, accompanied by loss of skin, death, or possibly weakening of fluids or pus, and requires medical referral, particularly in clients with underlying medical conditions such as diabetes. So, once again, you can find all your secondary and your primary lesions on page 123 to 127. All right, so let's describe the structure of hair. The structure of hair. You'll find this on page 456 to 460. All right, so the structure of hair. So, all right, so the scientific study of hair and its disease is called trichology. So, moving forward, the average human is born with skin that houses approximately 5 million philosebaceous units capable of producing hair. The hair follicle is a mass of epidermal cells forming a tube-like canal. Follicles extend deep into the dermis. The philosebaceous unit contains hair follicles and the appendages, which includes hair root, hair bulb, hair papillae, hair shaft, and the erectile pili muscle and sebaceous glands. Okay? All right, so moving forward, we have the hair canal. The hair canal is the lining with the epidermis tissue. These epidermal cells produce the follicle and the hair matrix. The hair root. The hair root it anchors hair to the skin, to the skin cells, and is a part of the hair located at the bottom of the follicle below the surface of the skin. The hair bulb is a thick club-shaped structure made from the epithelial cells that surrounds the papillae, and this forms the lower part of the base of the hair follicle. The hair papillae is a cone-shaped elevation of connective tissue that contains the capillaries and nerve located at the base of the follicle, and it fits into the bulb. The hair shaft once again, is defined as a part of the hair located above the surface of the skin, and the sebaceous gland secretes the waxy substance called sebum, which lubricates the skin and hairs. The erectile pili muscle contracts when affected by cold or other stimuli, and it pulls on the follicle and forces the hair to stand up erect, causing goosebumps. All right, so you got 3 types of hair. You got langu, which is the soft downy hair found on the fetus. The vellus hair is found on areas that cannot be covered by larger coarse terminal hairs. For an example, vellus hair usually grows on women's cheeks, and it's also known as the peach fuzz. Terminal hair is the longer coarse hair found on the head, brows, lashes, genital, arms, and legs. So let's go into the growth cycle. The growth cycle is found on page 458. The growth cycle is found on page 458. We have the hair growth is a result of activity of cells found in the basal layers. Hair growths occur in 3 stages: anagen, catagen, and telogen, which is ACT, A-C-T, anagen, A, anagen, C, catagen, T, telogen. Okay? All right, so moving forward, anagen is the phase where the growth stage is during. Anagen phase is the growth stage during which new hair is produced, new keratinized cells are manufactured in the hair follicle during the anagen stage. Okay, so if you can see, this is the anagen phase where the cells are, this hair is being, it has it's being given nutrients to grow, and the blood vessels are still connected to this basic hair follicle. Okay, so y'all see that in the first picture. The catagen phase, right? The catagen phase is removed from the blood vessels, right? So the catagen phase is the transition stage of the hair growth. In the catagen stage, mitosis ceases, and the hair having completed its growth phase detaches from the dermal papillae. So as y'all can see in the first part, is right there gaining all the nutrients and is connected to the dermal papillae, and then it's separating from the blood vessels, and now it's going into that catagen phase. Now the telogen phase is the final stage or the resting stage of the hair growth. And during the telogen phase, the club hair moves up the follicle and is ready to shed. So now y'all see that it's moving up the follicle and ready to shed, and then the phases start all over again. All right. So moving forward, let's get into the excessive hair growths, okay? Abnormal hair growths, hirsutism and hypertrichosis. All right. All right, so hypertrichosis is an excessive growth of terminal hair in areas of the body that normally grow only on vellus hair, okay? It only grows on vellus in areas where it's vellus hair. So hypertrichosis is excessive growth of terminal hair in areas of the body that normally grows only vellus hairs. Lower back, eyelids, abdomen, and then not necessarily in the adult male hair growth patterns. So this type of hair is genetically and ethically inherited, but can also occur due to natural life occurrences, puberty, pregnancy, and menopause, certain medical procedures and treatments, or reactions to certain medications, such as steroids. All right, so hirsutism. Hirsutism is excessive hair growth on the face, chest, underarms, and groins, especially in women, and it is caused by excessive male androgen in the blood. This hormone imbalance may be caused by stimulation of male androgens at puberty, medications, illnesses, and stresses. So making sure y'all understand that there's a difference between the two. Hypertrichosis is different from hirsutism. You can find this on page 461. 460 to 461. All right, so now we're gonna move on to back to our foundations book for a second and understanding basic chemistry as it relates to ingredients. Ingredients. So you're gonna find this on page, let me see, 223, I think. All right, so it's kind of a blend of two books together. All right, so we're gonna move into the foundations book, and I want y'all to go to page 199. We're gonna touch on labeling first. All right, sorry. Labels is on page 170. I apologize. So we're gonna go to labels, which is on page 170, right? And on there, it talks about labels, mean factors of chemicals that are registered with either the EPA or the FDA are held to a stricter standard, okay? A stricter standard. They are held to a stricter standard for their labels. These require that all hazards be enclosed or disclosed alongside specific cautions and directions for use. And it is unfortunate, but many people do not read the product labels, yet are shocked when they have a bad outcome, okay? All right. And then we're gonna move forward into acidity and alkalinity on page 165. So I'm gonna skip through this PowerPoint a little bit just because I'm gonna come back when we get to our big book because we're gonna stay in that book after that. All right, so the pH scale or the acid and the alkaline solution. So we know that on the pH scale, 0 to 7 is acidic and 7 to 14 is alkaline, right? So and 7 is being neutral, okay? So we need to know that pH stands for potential hydrogen, okay? Potential hydrogen, and only things with water bases can have a pH, All right, so moving forward, we can get into a little bit of this acid and alkalis, right? So acids, right? Acids and alkalis. Acids owe their chemical reactivity to the hydrogen ion positive, right? Alpha hydroxy acids derived from plants, mostly fruit. Glycolic acid, right? Glycolic acid is alpha hydroxy acid used in exfoliation to lower the pH in products. And let's get into alkalis. Alkalis is also known as bases owe their own chemical reactivity to the hydroxide ion. Sodium hydroxide is commonly known as lye. Once again, sodium hydroxide is commonly known as lye and is a very strong alkali. All right. All right, so I kind of move forward into all of this stuff. So we know that alkalis owe their chemical reactivity to the hydroxide ion OH negative. OH negative, we know that O is oxygen, H is hydrogen. So OH negative, anything above the pH of 7. All right, so we're gonna go back into our book, right? The big book. And we're gonna travel to page 223 to get to ingredients and 220, okay? All right, so product labeling and laws and regulations. So once again, let's touch on company name, location, or distribution point in all ingredients. This is found on page, this particular topic right here is found on page 198. 198. So once again, we have the must list, the company name, location, or distribution. They must list those things in all ingredients. So they have to list those things, right? We also know that the FDA regulation for cosmetic labeling states that the cosmetic companies must list company name, location, and distribution. Okay, this allows consumers to check for ingredients and that they may be allergic to, and must be listed on descending from prominence, stating in the ingredients having the highest concentration and then with the ingredient having the lowest concentration. So ingredients with a concentration level of 1% or less than 1% may be listed in any order. A fragrance must be listed as fragrance, but the particular ingredient used for fragrance need not to be listed. We also have to get into INCI names. The FDA requires that all cosmetic labels include the list of ingredients using standardized INCI names for each ingredient. What is INCI? INCI is the acronym of International Nomenclature Cosmetic Ingredient. INCI names are located or allocated by American Cosmetic Association, Personal Care Products Council, and are used internationally. The adoption of the INCI names ensure that cosmetic ingredients are consistently listed, okay? Product labeling and laws. So labeling and laws, okay? Labeling and laws. Let's get into that. You will find this particular chart on page 205. 205. Okay, so water, we know water is an ingredient. An example is a vehicle or a solvent. Emollients are ingredients. There are oil, fatty acids, fatty esters, and silicones. The examples of this would be jojoba oil, olive oil, sesame seed, and mineral. Surfactants. Surfactants are detergents or emulsifiers. Ammonium laureth sulfate. Okay, these are all types of surfactants. Delivery systems. Delivery systems would be vehicles, liposomes, and polymers, emollient water, phospholipids, and microsponges. Preservatives, antimicrobial, antioxidants, insulating agents, parabens, quaternarium, citric acids. This sodium and EDT would be preservatives. Fragrances. Fragrances would be natural or synthetic. Fragrances are natural and synthetic. Synthetic perfumes, plant essential oils would be fragrances. Color agents, certified exempt lakes, DC organic zinc, mica, and mineral dyes. Inorganic iron oxide would be examples of those ingredients, right? Thickeners. Thickeners are lipids, emulsifiers, polymers, minerals, synthetic, carbomers, gelatin, cilia, sterile alcohol, and hexathene gum would be examples of those ingredients. pH adjusters and buffers would be considered buffers. Citric acid and sodium bicarbonate, which is in a lot of water, would be a pH adjuster. Solvents, alcohol, water, isopropyl alcohol, butane glycol would be the examples of the ingredients, okay? So moving forward, I just wanted to touch on that stuff so y'all can be familiar with the different types of labels, okay? Let's go into the client consultation now. Client consultation. Now you'll find all this stuff, right? All understanding the client consultation, which is another thing That's very important because now we're moving into domain two. So let me go ahead and show y'all what I mean. So we are moving into domain two, right? We are moving into this domain two, which is 45% of skincare services. Now, this is relatively something that we should know, and we're going to know, and we have to understand different things in this particular part of the exam, right? So let's get into that, and we're gonna go through that real quick. So moving forward, the first part will be understanding the performance of a client consultation and documentation in the intake form. Client consultation chart, physician release. So you'll find most of that on page 183 to 185, 183 to 185, also on page 179 to 188, 179 to 188 inside of your aesthetics book. So I'm about to go over this a little bit. All right. So your client consultation is the client comfortable? You need to know these things. Is your work area freshly clean? Is it uncluttered? All those type of things. Sorry. Do you have material to explain benefits or ingredients? And you can do like a mini analysis, okay, to kind of map out a plan for your client. Do you have photos of the actual treatment process? And will you be able to discuss who the best candidates are for specific treatments? So your intake form. Once again, you'll find all this on page 180. So we are on 180 right now. All right, 180, you'll find your intake form. So on there, you see that the intake form is also called the client questionnaire, health history form, or consultation card. Clients should complete a confidential intake form that should be updated at each visit. Okay, moving forward, we have the next form, which is the consent form. Your consent form, your client consent form, will be found on page 183. The consent form is basically letting them know, what is a consent form? Let's talk about this. What is a consent form? The consent form is also referred to as a consent to treat, release, a customary written agreement between the esthetician and the client for applying a treatment, whether routine or pre-operative. The client reads and signs a document acknowledging that they understand what is being done. So that is your consent form. Now you have your client chart or service record card, and you'll find that on page, the physical picture of this, you'll find this on page 184. Now this client chart or service record card is a record of all your notes from the skin analysis to the type of skin treatment or treatment performed, products used in the treatment, goals you are working towards, your home care recommendation, other consultation notes. So the reason I wanted to make sure I broke this up for y'all was because a lot of times we'll get some of these forms confused or misconstrued. We need to know the difference between the client intake form and medical history, along with the consent form and your service record card. Moving forward, questions to ask during your consultation: the reason for visit, skin concerns, skincare goals, home care routine, prior treatments, allergies to products, normal state of the skin, feel of the skin during different times of the day or different times of the year, sunscreen, SPF value, do they use it or do they not use it, their diet, their water intake, and their activity level is really important. Also, other questions you can ask is, are they a smoker, other allergies, lifestyle, stress, prior aesthetic procedures, did they get any procedures prior to coming to see you? So now you got to know how to prepare your client for the facial treatment. And that would be applying knowledge of client protection. And you'll find this on page 302 to 304. 302 to 304. I know it's a lot of flopping all over the book, but I'm just taking y'all where y'all need to go so y'all can hit this stuff right on the nose and not fly through the book all the way. So you'll find all this on page 302. And when it comes to client protection, you need to know how to assist your client in draping, right? So you need to know how to drape your client, assisting them on a facial bed and draping and adjusting them, knowing that they need a towel on the base of their on their décolleté, also need a towel underneath their head, making sure their hair is off the face. And then of course you want to get into the initial consultation and analysis, right? So once again, you'll find all of that for your client protective or client protection, draping the head and the body on page 302 to 304. Moving forward, we have the initial consultation and analysis. The initial consultation and analysis. So once again, you got to go through this a little bit, right? So we got 167, page 167 and 168. You'll find this on page 167 to 168. So obtain the sign and consent form, proper draping with hand washing, initial consultation, performing initial skin analysis, and creating a treatment plan, right? So in the skin analysis, we're going to touch on the skin analysis. Once again, I'm on letter C. So we are on page 167 through 168, also 170 to 171, okay? So moving forward, the skin conditions, we have different skin conditions, we have different contraindications, and we have different clients that come in with different kinds of situations. So let's get into it. So we have 4 different types of skin. We have normal skin, which has a great oil water balance, which is normal skin. Then we have a combination skin. Right? All right, so we have different skin types. Once again, oily skin ages more slowly, and it acts to protect the skin, right? Dry skin has a compromised transepidermal water loss, meaning it's more drier. So we know that the follicles on dry skin would be a little bit less visible. Whereas though someone who has oily skin, therefore their follicles or the pores on their skin would be a little bit more enlarged. So you can see the difference between this person at the top and the person at the bottom. We have different types of Fitzpatricks. The 6 different types of Fitzpatricks. We have Fitzpatricks 1 through 6. And you're going to find that on page 168. So for Fitzpatrick 1. So Fitzpatrick 1, we have blue to green eyes, blonde and red hair, very white, almost translucent freckles, English, Irish, Scottish, North European, always burns, peels with burns, and does not tan. So we have a Fitzpatrick 2, whereas though their eyes may be blue, hazel, or brown, your hair will be red, blonde, or brown. The unexposed skin would be light. And of course, they burn easily and usually peels, tans minimally. The Fitzpatrick 3 would then be, of course, brown, dark hair, fair to olive skin, Spanish, Greek, Italian, and tans well, burns moderately. Fitzpatrick 4 would be dark, eyes, dark hair, light brown skin, Mediterranean, Asian, Hispanic, tans easily, burns minimally, experience immediate pigmentation response. Fitzpatrick 5 would be dark skin, dark brown skin, dark hair, dark eyes. East Indian, American Indian Hispanic, Latin American, African American. And they rarely burn, tans easily and significantly. Now this Fitzpatrick 6, right? This Fitzpatrick 6, they have dark eyes, hair, and skin, brown to black, which is of course their skin color, African American, Aboriginal, or they rarely burn or never burn, and they tan easily. Moving forward, you also can find more information on the different skin types, the normal, combination, oily, and dry on page 166 as well to 167. All right, so let's look at illustration of skin conditions. So there are many skin conditions. You got acne, you got comedones, you got cysts, we talked about these, herpes simplex, hyperpigmentation, PIH, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, hypopigmentation, these are all conditions. Keratosis, pilaris, melasma, papules, pustules, seborrhea, right? You have sensitivities, which is a wheal. Sensitivities, which is a wheal, which is a reaction such as erythema, which is redness of the skin, edema, wheals, itching, stinging, or discomfort from the internal or external influence, to telangiectasia, dilated capillaries, as y'all can see, wrinkles and aging. So let's get into some contraindications for skin treatments, right? So now we're going into the contraindications for skin treatments. You'll find this on page 177 to 179. All right, so certain skin disease disorders or irritation, the use of isotretinoin, skin thinning or exfoliating topical medications, pregnancy, metal bone pins or plates in the body, pacemakers or heart irregularities, allergies, seizures, or epilepsy, the use of oral steroids, autoimmune disease, diabetes, blood thinners, including, of course, NSAIDs, and those would be your contraindications. Once again, you can find those on page 178. 177 to 179, okay? Moving forward. Completing the cleansing, the facial cleansing. So understanding the cleansing procedure would be one of the topics. So you can find it on page 311 and 312. 311 and 312. All right. 311, and the facial cleansing with appropriate cleanser and toner. So you want to remove the eyes and lip makeup, cleansing, and then toning. So we know that, of course, that is the first process in the facial. So the cleansing procedure, the eye and lip procedure will be found in your chapter and the procedures in the back of the book, in chapter 8. So we know we clean the eyes and the lips, and we cleanse the face. So avoid over rubbing, overstimulating the skin, and thoroughly but effectively complete the cleansing. And if there is makeup residue, do a double cleanse, once before using the towel and once after, okay? So different types of cleansers we have available are cleansing waters, cleansing gels, cleansing lotions, cleansing creams, and cleansing oils. The benefits of a cleanser would be to dissolve oil, dirt, additional ingredients to combat the skin conditions. All right, so all right, let's get into exfoliation. Exfoliation procedures. I'm gonna skip over steaming. We're gonna come back to that in a second. So you'll find all of these different types of exfoliation. So one is found on 314, right? 314. Right? So exfoliation can be achieved using an AHA, BHA, manual scrub, or enzyme peel. And you can use both a brush machine to remove dead skin cells to make it feel a little rough when the clogged with the clogged pores. So manual exfoliation is the use of a rotary brush or a microdermabrasion. Mechanical exfoliation is the use of a rotary brush or a microdermabrasion when applied to the skin to gently remove dead skin cells. Granular or manual exfoliation is the use of granular products such as honey, jojoba beads, bran waxing to remove dead skin cells. Chemical exfoliation, of course, is an enzyme in alpha hydroxy acids, beta hydroxy acid, azelaic acid, or kojic acid can be chosen based on the level of accumulation. Chemical exfoliants are used to lessen the appearance. What is the benefits of exfoliation, right? Soften, brighten complexion, improve skin ability, retain moisture, increase cell turnover rates, and makes extractions easier, product penetration improved, makeup application smoother. You can also find exfoliation on page 241, okay? 241. Once again, you have your mechanical, chemical, and enzyme exfoliants. Mechanical, chemical, and enzymatic exfoliants. So we talked about these a little bit. Let's go ahead and get into page 646, 646 to 654. All right, so we have the enzyme peel. What is the enzyme peel? Enzyme treatments are often referred to enzyme pills or enzyme masks. All right, enzyme pills or enzyme masks. The next thing we have is, we got to know these different ones, the AHAs or the BHAs, alpha hydroxy acids. Alpha hydroxy acids include, and I'm on page 649, glycolic acid, lactic acid, tartic acid, metallic acid, citric acid, and mandelic acid. All right, so we also have the use of BHAs. BHAs. All right. So BHAs work under the same premises, but are suited to dissolve oil you primarily use on oily or acne skin. So BHAs are usually stronger than AHAs. Once again, BHAs include salicylic acid, which derives from sweet bark, wintergreen, and antiseptic and anti-inflammatory properties. So once again, I just wanted to talk on that. You also have your TCA pills. Your TCA Jesner pills are found on page 652. Jesner pills is characterized as a strong superficial pill. All right. Jesner pills are on page 652 and is characterized as a stronger superficial pill and utilizes a Jesner solution, which is a mix of salicylic acid, resorcinol, and lactic acid and ethanol. These pills are achieved at a superficial level by applying low percentages and fewer layers than are found which are on a medium level pilling. Both Jesner and TCA pills work on the premises of protein coagulation, Therefore, there will be flaking and pilling. Okay? All right, so I'm gonna leave y'all alone with these pills, okay? All right, so let's describe the 5 types of massage movements. And you're gonna find that on page 389, 389. Effleurage. Effleurage is soft, continuing stroking movements, beginning and the ending of a service. When you begin with your facial, you begin with effleurage. You also want to position your fingers and your palms to make it a nice, comfortable setting or application when you use effleurage. Petrissage. Petrissage is compression techniques, affects deeper muscle tissue, stimulates circulation. This is a pinching, kneading type of massage movement. Once again, you're going to find these on page 389 to 391. All right. All right, so petrissage and compression techniques include kneading, squeezing, and pinching. Tapotement. Tapotement is also known as percussion and is a percussive stroke in which fingertips strike with the rapid succession of fast tapping movements. All right. This particular movement is good for stimulating and toning. Friction. Friction is an invigorating rubbing technique that stimulates the circulation and glandular activity of the skin. And it can be performed in a circular manner or crisscross manner. Vibration. Vibration is rapid shaking movement in which the esthetician typically use their body and shoulders, not just the fingertips, to create a movement. It is highly stimulating and you want to use this sparingly. Steam or steam towels. Steam or steam towels. So we could go back up to that. You're going to find this on page 421. Okay. It helps to promote effective cleansing. It accelerates skin conditions and is used before deep pore cleansing. Okay. It is used before deep pore cleansing, and you can find the information of a steamer on page 421. Extractions. So let's go to page. Let me see. Let me see which one I'm gonna go. 339 and 375. All right, so you'll see the actual procedure on page 375. The actual procedure is on page 375, but you can go to page 339 to get to understanding the methods of extraction. So you have methods of extractions. There are manual comedone removal with gauze wrapped around fingers using damping with astringent and is useful for majority of extraction. Comedone extractors are metal tubes for open comedones and sebaceous filaments. Cotton swabs are smaller than the fingers and are especially useful around the nose area. And lancets. Lancets are for the removal of milia or pustules, and you need to check with your state board to see if this is permissible. Cysts and nodules must be treated by a dermatologist. The mass treatment. Mass treatments, many forms and different mass affects the skin type. So it can be applied at different times. All right, so you'll find your mask. I want to go to page 242 for your mask because it's going to talk about the different types of masks. Okay. 242. As a matter of fact, 241 to 242. 241 is going to give us the different, what is a mask? Matter of fact, I'm going to give you the definition of a mask. A good mask is also known as a pack or a mask and can do wonders for the skin. Mask ingredients can range from soothing to hydrating botanicals to oil absorbing, acne fighting, hydroxy acids, and more. Okay, the benefits of a mask can tighten, tone, brighten the complexion, and rejuvenate. Hydrate, nourish, calm, and soothe. Clarify, detoxify, draw impurities out of the pores, and clear up blemishes. Moving forward, there are different types of masks. You have your clay mask. That's the first one. A clay mask draws excess oils and impurities from the surface of the skin as a mask dries and tightens. Okay? The alginated mask. The alginated mask will be also considered the rubber mask. Alginated masks are often seaweed based and applied after a serum or a treatment cream in a facial treatment. The modalage mask is also known as a thermal mask. This is a thermal mask, which is the mask on thermal mask, and also it is applied after nourishing serums and a facial treatment. These masks contain special crystals of gypsum and plaster-like ingredients. You also have your paraffin wax mask, which is also a thermal mask as well. And our facial mask that contains paraffin wax and are specifically prepared in a salon. These waxes melt a little more than a body temperature and before application, and when applied, the paraffin quickly cools to a lukewarm temperature. This is good for dry, mature skin and dull and lifeless skin. Moving forward, we have the sheet mask. The sheet mask, that's on page 241. And they're considered non-setting masks, and they are available in single sheet or single package, moist or freeze dry sheets. Setting mask. The setting mask, of course, we know that dries hard and hardens, but a non-setting mask is designed to retain or remain moist on the skin to provide nourishment. And they do not dry, they set up, and these are good, or I would consider these a cream-based mask, okay? A cream-based mask. All righty, and they will come in a gel form. Of course, we know the gel forms are good for sensitive skin, dehydrated skin, things of that nature. Moving forward, we're going to demonstrate the understanding and the conclusion of facial services. Moisturized sun protection. We're going to find it on page 317 and 318. 317 to 318. So moisturizers. All facials must end with the moisturizer in the skin, with moisture in the skin. Depending on the formulation, moisturizers seal in moisture and help reinforce the barrier layers of the skin. Moisturizers are emulsions that can be in cream, oil, or gel bases. All right. Moving forward, we also have our sun protection products, which is SPF. We know that we must use our SPF, and you can find that on page 318. The final step of a facial should be the application of a full spectrum sunscreen. A full spectrum sunscreen protects the skin from both UVA and UVB rays. The application of sunscreen is especially necessary for the use of AHA and BHAs. Moving forward, home care and aftercare. You can find this on page 319. How to consult your clients on home care. Home care is probably the most important factor in a successful skincare program. Of course, you want to block out okay. You want to block out a 15-minute to explain proper home care for the client. You want to have the client sit in a facial chair and invite them to move to the well-lit consultation area. Explain in simple terms the client conditions. And of course, you want to inform them about how often they should receive a treatment from you. Set out the products you want them, the client, to purchase and use, and explain each one and tell them which order they should use them in. And it's important to have products available for the client that you believe in and produce results. And you need to have the art of recommendation because it is important. So moving forward, let's get into demonstrate the knowledge of the use of electrical equipment. And I'm going to go and move through this a little quickly. And you'll find all of these on page, starting with the mag lamp. Starting with the mag lamp, you can find it on page 416. All right, you can find the mag lamp on page 416. When to use the mag lamp. During the skin analysis, during the correct facial, to determine the correct facial treatment, during extractions, and as a source of additional light when needed for treatment. Contraindications for this, contraindications and best practices. So moving forward, to avoid overreacting and hurting their back and wrist, you may need to stand up and also cover the client's eyes and things of that nature. You can find this once again on page 416 and 417. The Woods lamp would be next. The Woods lamp, when to use the Woods lamp. So when you want to do a deeper skin analysis, you would use the Woods lamp. The Woods lamp allows the esthetician to conduct a more in-depth skin analysis, illuminating skin problems that are originally invisible to the naked eye. So on this page on 418, you'll find that is the Woods lamp. And you'll see the different colors for each particular condition, skin condition. The room must be completely dark to use this. Place small iPads on the client's eye, and the bulbs can get hot, so be careful not to touch the client. Moving forward, we have our facial steamer, which is on page 421. 421. 421, when to use the facial steamer. You want to use this. The steamer is specifically used during the second cleanse in the facial, and it can be used prior to extractions to soften the skin, but effective only temporary. It can also be used to soften a facial mask and facilitate its removal. Okay, the effects of a steamer helps to stimulate the circulation as well as soften sebum dead skin cells. The warmth relaxes the skin and the tissues, making it easier for the esthetician to extract comedones. Steam also is beneficial for the sinus and the congestions, and steam with the O3 may have an antiseptic effect on the skin that is beneficial for acne and problematic skin. The high frequency machine. The high frequency machine is found on page 431 and 432. The high frequency machine is an apparatus that utilizes a alternating or sinusoidal current effect, which is a smooth, repetitive alternating current and produces a heat effect. The high frequency oscillation current passes through a device that allows the selection of Tel's pulse current. The current can produce a frequency of 60,000 to 200,000 hertz, depending on how it is regulated. It has electrodes. It is several types of direct or indirect electrodes that are available for the high frequency machine. So once again, you can find all the different ones on all the different high frequency probes on page 432. But when to use this high frequency? It may be applied after extraction or used over a product, but will not penetrate the product as isophoresis would. The machine also creates an ozone, which has a germicidal action on the skin. The effects of the high frequency. It has an antiseptic and healing effect on the skin. It stimulates circulation, helps oxygenate the skin. It increases cell metabolism, and it helps coagulate and heal any open lesions after extractions by sparking it with a mushroom. It also generates warm feeling that has a relaxing effect on the skin. Of course, there are many contraindications for this service: cuperose skin, inflamed areas, pacemakers, metal implants, heart problems, high blood pressure, braces, epilepsy, pregnancy, body piercings. So to avoid being burned with the client, you should avoid contact with metal. Clients should remove all jewelry. The technician should ground their fingers to the electrode prior to applying it to the client. And the electrode should continuously be moving at all times. The electrode should not be gently removed in the handpiece to avoid snapping the electrode. All right, so now we have the microdermabrasion. The microdermabrasion is found on page 655. 655, 655. All righty, so you have your two different types of microderms, crystal and your diamond tip. And then you, of course, you can use the crystals inside of a crystal microderm as a manual exfoliation. So the crystal, let's talk about the crystal. The crystal microderm procedure is achieved by spraying high-grade microcrystals composed of corundum powder, aluminum oxide, or similar abrasive material across the skin surface. The crystal microderm technique is similar to running the vacuum suction machine over the face. Crystals are first sprayed on the skin and then the handpiece and vacuumed off simultaneously. Moving forward, the crystal-free microderm technique consists of a diamond tip applicator that gently polishes away the upper layer of the skin without the use of messy crystals. It has gained popularity over the crystal option and has yields the same results without the cleanup or the expense of crystals. You also have the hydrodermabrasion. The hydrodermabrasion is a procedure similar to the microdermabrasion. It is called the hydrodermabrasion or wet microdermabrasion, and is gaining popularity. This is a non-invasive or non-irritating procedure, combines with mechanical and liquid exfoliation with a serum penetration and hydration via a machine similar to closed loop systems found with a crystal microderm machine. All right, so that is your microderm, okay? When to use this microderm? When to use the microderm? So the difference between an AHA and a microderm is the AHA is a chemical and natural and penetrates into the epidermis, where the microdermabrasion is a surface level mechanical method. Okay? So the effects on a microdermabrasion would be sun damage, pigmentation, open and closed comedones, fine lines and wrinkles, and large pores and coarsely textured skin. All right, of course, there is a lot of contraindications for this service. You can find it on page 657. Light therapy. Two types of light therapy. You can find this on page 662 to page 665. So I'm gonna go ahead to that. Explain the benefits of laser therapy. Lasers are, no, not that one, sorry. All right, light therapy is the application of light rays to the skin for the treatment of wrinkles, capillaries, pigmentation, or unwanted hair. Light therapy uses different types of devices, lasers, intense pulse light, and light emitting diode, which is LED. Moving forward, we have the infrared light. The infrared light therapy uses infrared heat and has been used for years to treat physical conditions such as pain and promote healing. Infrared lamps have been used in salons for heating conditioners and chemical in the hair treatment. Moving forward, we have the intense pulse light, which is the IPL. Intense pulse light is devices that are similar to lasers. IPL devices uses pulse of multiple wavelengths to reduce pigmentation, remove surface capillaries, and rejuvenate the skin. The LED is an acronym for light emitting diode. It's a device used to reduce acne, increase circulation, and improve the collagen content of the skin. LED technology is non-thermal, meaning it does not use heat. LED technology works on the premises of non-thermal, non-ablative cellular stimulation called photomodulation. There is the different effects. Please get familiar with these lights. So please, if you don't do nothing else, please write down page 665 because the colors is what matter. The colors. So your red light on the LED machine increases cellular process, boosts collagen and elastin production, stimulate wound healing. The yellow light reduces inflammation, improves lymphatic flow, detoxifies, and increases circulation. The green light lessens hyperpigmentation, reduces redness, calms, and soothes. The blue light improves acne, reduces bacteria, and used with medications for precancerous lesions. The microcurrent. The microcurrent is found on page 666. The microcurrent is found on page 666. The microcurrent or wave therapy mimics the way the brain relays messages to the muscle. Therefore, the microcurrent is used in the medical field to treat conditions such as Bell palsy and stroke paralysis. All right, so you use the microcurrent through the aid in healing of repaired tissue to influence metabolism. It works gently to help speed up the natural regenerative process of the body when the correct intensity of current is flowing. And it helps produce firmer and healthier skin and are expected treatment results. All right. Let's get into color theory. Color theory. So we know that in this, we're gonna have to know about a little bit of makeup. So let's get into the principles. You'll find this on page 552. 552. We should be done in like 20 minutes or less. All right, so 552 is where our color theory is starting. This is the principles, okay? So we know our primary colors are yellow, red, and blue, right? Yellow, red, and blue are our primary colors. Our secondary colors are orange, green, and violet, mixing of equal portions of two primary colors together. The secondary colors, the tertiary colors would be yellow, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, red, violet, and then red, orange. Once again, you can find all of this on page 552 to 553. Moving forward on a color wheel on 554, we have complementary colors. Complementary colors are colors that fall directly across from each other on the color wheel. Meaning orange would be blue, yellow would be violet, red and green. Analogous colors are colors that are located directly next to each other on a color wheel. Meaning yellow, green, green, blue, violet. Those colors are right next to each other on a color wheel. Color saturation. Color saturation refers to the pureness of a color or the dominance of a hue in a color, okay? So you see the value of the color right there, right? Value is a brightness of the color or how light or dark it is. And this depends on the amount of light emanating from the color. Moving forward, we have color saturation. Color saturation, once again, you have your tint, your shade, and your tone. So once again, the various degrees of saturation creates tints, shades, and tones. A tint occurs when white is added to a pure hue. A shade occurs when black is added to a pure hue. And a tone occurs when gray is added to a pure hue. So once again, a tint meaning adding white, black meaning is a shade. So if you got a lampshade, you're darkening up the actual brightness of a light. So think about that. And then of course you have your gray, which is added to the pure hue. Your gray, which is toning down, giving it a tone. All right, follow infection control environments for makeup services. Following infection control. So the reason I skip product selection and application is because y'all know what lipstick foundation. Y'all know what lipstick foundation and application is, right? So once again, give me 1 second, y'all. So once again, you want to follow the infection control requirements for a makeup service. So moving forward, you want to wash your hands, do not touch products without fingers, do not double dip, distribute product onto a clean palette. Once again, that's what we have to do at StateBoard Practical, right? You want to use disposable applicator. If you accidentally contaminate something, you need to just give it away or throw it away. Guidelines for cleaning applicators, guidelines for cleaning the applicators. So let's get into that. Once again, you'll find it on page 578. So the applicators, you use a new or disinfectant applicator, brush, wands, and spatulas. For the pencils, you want to sharpen pencils and wipe them off with tissue. If they cannot be sharpened, they cannot be cleaned. So the auto roller ones are not good for use. You cannot use those. Testers, keep testers clean in the retail area to avoid contamination, assisting clients who are using testers. The palettes and supplies, clean and disinfect artist trays, palettes, brushes, sharpeners, and foundation mixing cups after each use. Manual lymphatic drainage. So I'm talking about, we're going to demonstrate the basic knowledge of other services as it relates to facial services. So I know I just kind of skipped over that real quick because makeup was really quick, right? So we know in makeup, all we're talking about is the principles, product selection, application, meaning contouring, highlighting, and blending, and safety and infection control. Moving forward, we're on our last section, which is letter O for domain 2, facial services. So you're gonna find this on page 676. We're gonna go there, 676. So we have pre-operative care, right? All right, so manual lymphatic drainage is on page 675. I'm sorry, y'all, 675. So manual lymphatic drainage, it cleanses, detoxifies, it adds to the facial, and is used for surgeries and you need to get advanced training to perform this service. So this will be a pre and post operative service for someone who was getting a surgery. Medical aesthetics, right? Medical aesthetics. You'll find this on page 676. So we're going to get into pre-operative care. Estheticians perform pre and post-operative treatments to provide education for cosmetic surgery. These are important for faster patient time recovery. Estheticians also provide facials, light pills, extractions, and microdermabrasion prior to surgery, camouflage makeup, retail sales, and patient home care counseling. So that is pre-operative. So pre-operative focus is on preparing the skin for a procedure and getting the skin to optimum state. Moving forward, the post-operative care or the post-op care includes providing skin care for rapid wound healing and avoidance of infection, decreasing inflammation, soothing and moisturizing, and providing sun protection are the goals. Of course, microdermabrasion and chemical pills, glycolic treatments can be performed to precondition the skin for more laser resurfacing and surgery. All right. Other clinical procedures. Non-ablative would mean procedures that do not remove tissue. Non-ablative wrinkle treatments use intense pulse light. We just talked about that. The IPL to bypass the epidermis and stimulate collagen and dermis to promote wrinkle reduction. We also have injectables. Injectables such as Botox and dermal fillers are injectables that are a large part of the industry. Injectables have become the fastest growing product in the medical spa industry. Injectable fillers are substances used in non-surgical procedures to fill in or plump areas of the skin. Botox injections is a popular non-surgical clinical service. Botox is a neuromuscular blocker serum, okay, that paralyzes the nerve cells on the muscles when the serum is injected into. This is on page 678. Moving forward, we have dermal fillers. Dermal fillers are used to fill lines, wrinkles, and other facial imperfections as we age. Dermal collagen, hyaluronic acid, fats are lost and skin loses its shape. So the fillers are where from animal sources, specifically bovine collagen. All righty, let's see what else we got. Medical. All right, so we got cosmetic surgery. Cosmetic surgery would be rhydectomy, okay? The rhydectomy is a facelift, the forehead lift. We have a forehead lift, which is also called a brow lift, and can be performed separately in combination with the eye lift. Blepharoplasty, okay, is an eye lift, and it removes fat and skin from the upper and lower lids, making them less baggy and crinkled looking. Okay, moving forward, transconjunctival. This one is basically performed inside the lower eyelid to remove bulging fat pads when are often congenital. All right, so laser resurfacing or rhinoplasty, is a nose surgery that makes a nose smaller or changes the appearance in some other ways. Laser resurfacing is used to smooth wrinkles and lessen acne scars. Collagen remodeling stimulates the growth of the new collagen dermis. The dermabrasion is the strongest exfoliation method used on a mechanical brush and physically removes tissues down the dermis. And the TCA pills are deep pills used to address sun damage and wrinkles. Phenols are pills that are the strongest pills and can be toxic. They are still used and less expensive, but they require a longer period than the TCA pills or laser resurfacing. Body procedures would be sclerotherapy, minimize varicose veins. Mammoplasty, which is breast surgery, enhances large breasts or reconstructs them. Liposuction is the procedure that surgically removes pockets of fat, and the abdominoplasty removes excess fat deposits and loose skin from the abdomen to tuck and tighten that area. Spa treatments. So we're gonna get into body treatments. Body treatments are found on page 670. 670, body treatments. Moving forward, we have body wraps. They are treatments which are applied to the body and covered and wrapped up and used for various reasons to remineralize, hydrate, stimulate, detoxify, and promote relaxation. Body scrubs are used for friction to exfoliate and hydrate, increase circulation, and nourish skin, using a combination of ingredients such as ground nuts, apricot kernels, cornmeal, jojoba beads, honey salt, sugar, or sugar combined with oil and lotion. Body masks are remineralize and detoxifies the body using primary clay, mud, or seaweed mixtures. Hydrotherapy is another spa treatment uses water in three forms: ice, steam, and liquid. Hydrotherapy, Scotch hoses, beachy showers, the wassus, massages, hot tubs, steam rooms, saunas, cold plunge pools. Foot soaks and whirlpools are all forms of hydrotherapy. Balneotherapy is a treatment of physical alignments using therapeutic water baths, mineral mud fango, or Dead Sea salt. Stone massage. Stone massage is the technique of using hot stones and cold stones in massage or other treatments. Foot reflexology. Foot reflexology is the technique of applying pressure to feet based on the system of zones in areas of the feet directly corresponding to the anatomy of the body. The Ayurvedic concept are based on the Ayurvedic concept is based on 3 doshas, the mind and body types. Treatments include Shuddhara and massage and facials using Indian concepts and ingredients suited to 3 mind-body types, the Pitta, Kapha, and Vata. Ayurvedic originated over 5,000 years ago in India. Sunless tanning. Sunless tanning products application is a service offered as an alternative to sun tanning, and it is sprayed on and applied manually. Endermology. Endermology is a treatment for cellulite. Okay, it is a treatment for cellulite. It helps stimulate the reduction of adipose tissue, that fatty tissue. Moving forward, the Reiki. The Reiki is a Japanese technique for stress reduction and relaxation to also promote healing. And of course, we know other energy practices, balancing the chakras according to the Hindu philosophies. All right, so moving forward, we have describe tinting and describe lashes and brow tinting on makeup client. So you'll find it on page 609. 609. Let's get there. 609. All right, so lash tinting and brow tinting. Lash tinting is used to darken lashes and brows. It is nice for clients with light to have some sort of color to last for a few weeks. It is a quick procedure. It's a great add-on service, and it requires precise placement. So keep tint off the skin if you are not trying to actually tint there. Okay. Moving forward, we have other lash services. Other lash services meaning lash extensions and lash perming. So lash extensions are single synthetic or natural hairs that are applied one by the client's natural lashes with a special adhesive. Fine tip forceps tweezers are used to apply the lash extensions. The bond will last for the life cycle of the natural lash, approximately 2 months. Fills or retouches or touch-ups are necessary as the hair grows and extends. The lash perming. Lash perming is the process of chemically curling the lashes. Research on the quality and safety of perm solution is recommended. Advanced training and practices are necessary. Waxing services. Waxing services. We are finally down to the last portion of this review. So let's demonstrate the understanding of hair removal methods and procedures. This is on page 469. 469. Hard wax versus soft wax. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about waxing. Waxing is the primary hair removal method. Waxing is the primary hair removal method used by estheticians. Wax is commonly used by epilator, applied with a soft or hard wax forms. Okay. Honey wax is most common, in which gum rosin is added. Okay. Wax is applied evenly over the hair, then removed. Hard wax is thicker than soft wax, and it does not require fabric strip for removal. Hard wax. Let's get into hard wax. The hard wax removal. Hard wax essentials. Hard waxes are available in blocks, discs, pellets, and beads. Generally, the harder the wax, the more heat is required to melt it. There are bases on resin called rosin, and these are often combined with beeswax as well as candelia, okay, or carnauba waxes, okay? These waxes hard waxes are gentle enough for facial for facial areas, yet strong enough to be used on hard to remove coarse hair in areas where some growth coverages are in multiple directions. Some like to use it on the bikini and underarm area. Hard wax is thicker than soft wax. Okay. Moving forward, hard wax are applied with the applicator at a 45-degree angle directly to the skin in a thick, wet appearing layer that appears as it cools. It's first applied against the hair growth, then back over the direction of the hair growth in a figure 8 pattern like a frosting cake, okay? Hard wax can be removed in the direction of the hair growth, thus the follicle is not distorted. It can be also removed against or sideways in the direction of the hair growth. It is especially effective in areas where hair grows in multiple directions. The do's and don'ts. Follow manufacturer's recommendations. Stir the wax. Apply the wax in a figure 8 movement against then over the hair growth. Apply wax with a clean water to avoid leaving wax behind. Apply the wax to the thickness of a nickel with no visible hair and form a slightly thicker tab for the end for gripping and removal. Discard used wax. Check for contraindications with the client to obtain, sign, and release. Moving forward, the don'ts for hard wax. Do not overheat and leave the heat on overnight. Do not apply wax to a client without testing the temperature. Do not double dip a spatula. Do not reuse the wax, and do not apply wax inside the ear canal or nostrils. Soft wax. Soft wax should be tested if corrected. Soft wax is the most common method of hair removal. There are multiple brands with various additives for the face and other body areas for levels of sensitivity, but they are predominantly made of rosin and adheres so that it can adhere to the skin. Moving forward, soft wax has a consistency of honey when melted and ready for use. Soft wax, when applied in a timely manner, runs down and through the hair so it can adhere to the skin and must be removed immediately with a piece of muslin or pellin while it is still warm. So the soft wax technique should be tested. If corrected, safe temperature, consistency should be applied to the client. Using an appropriate size applicator for the area, apply a thin coating of thin wax in the direction of the hair growth by swiftly guiding the edge of the applicator at a 45-degree angle across the area, allowing the wax to slide off the applicator as it moves across. Quickly place the appropriate size muslin or pellin strip over the area and make sure there is a wax-free portion at the pulling end. So once again, you apply hard wax in the opposite direction of the hair growth and then going back in the direction in the figure 8. With soft wax, you want to apply it in the direction of the hair growth and then pull it off in the opposite direction with a piece of muslin. I'm gonna just go through the do's and don'ts. Follow the manufacturer's direction for heating the wax to the correct optimum level. This is a do. Test the wax prior to applying. Check for contraindications. Obtain a signed release. Wear gloves. Apply the wax in the direction of the hair growth. Apply the wax thinly to prevent injury. And remove the wax strip against the direction of the hair growth. What you do not want to do is do not provide services with the consultation. And obtaining a signed release, do not apply the wax without first testing for the temperature. Do not apply the wax thickly, it will injure the client. And do not double dip the spatula. Do not let soft wax cool before pulling. It will be bruised or lift the skin. Do not go over a waxed area a second time in the service, as it could burn or lift or otherwise damage the skin. All right. So once again, the last portion was the wellness programs. I could not find that nowhere. So moving forward, if you want to look up wellness programs, you're more than welcome. You can look that up as it relates to aesthetics. But other than that, we are finished with this review. Okay?
Thank you, Miss Angelica.